Shortages of jet fuel could last into the summer.
Meanwhile, NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte said that member countries are doing everything US President Donald Trump had requested to strengthen the military alliance, even if some were initially a bit slow to provide support to America and its war with Iran. Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
The two men met at the White House on Wednesday amid tensions within the alliance over the Iran war. The US president has threatened to withdraw from the transatlantic security alliance in recent weeks. He argues that European allies haven't provided enough support for the US war in Iran while relying on US security guarantees. The NATO chief acknowledged that some allies were a bit slow to support the US. He noted they were also a bit surprised given President Trump opted not to inform them before starting the war. But he argued that today allies are providing a massive amount of support, saying they've heard and are responding to President Trump's requests. On Thursday morning, Mr. Trump posted on social media that NATO was very disappointing.
The fertility rate in the US hit another record low last year. Fresh federal data shows that the number of births fell by 1% to just over 3.6 million. Tony Waterman has more.
The U.S. fertility rate has been in decline since 2007. Nearly 23% fewer babies are born now than then. Teenage pregnancies have seen the sharpest declines and are now sitting at record lows. The data shows that fertility rates among women in their 30s and 40s are actually increasing, but it's not enough to offset a slowdown among younger women. Experts say the high cost of childcare, housing, and a desire by women to have careers are among the many reasons why the fertility rate continues to fall. Tony Waterman, Washington.
And finally, Moscow announced a short-term Easter truce with Ukraine for the weekend. Kiev agreed to respond in kind if Russia indeed observes the proposed ceasefire. The Ukrainian leader also announced that preparations are underway for a new round of settlement talks with Russia, expected in the near future. Daria Bondarchuk has more from Moscow.
The two-day ceasefire announced by Russian President Vladimir Putin is scheduled to begin at 4 p.m. local time on Saturday, April 11, and would last until the end of Sunday, the 12th of April. Moscow said it has seen Kiev's statements that it's ready to support the truce and expects Ukraine to follow Russia's lead. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky promised to act accordingly in case Moscow too refrains from new strikes. He also said that preparations for a new round of settlement talks with Russia and the United States are underway. Negotiations could take place in the form of a trilateral meeting or a round of shuttle diplomacy, with Moscow and Kyiv talking to the American side separately. Daria Bondarchuk, Moscow.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
An update now on a legal battle emerging around the Onion News Network's own Jode Kressbeckler. After the shocking story yesterday that a group of assailants attacked Congressman William Cummings, tied him to a horse, and dragged him through a briar patch, some are now saying these statements from Mr. Kressbeckler last week may have incited the attack.
Bootlegging Congressman Cummings ought to be tied to a horse and dragged through a briar patch.
Mr. Kressbeckler's show is billed as an opinion and entertainment program.
Yes,
and he even calls himself nothing but a caterwauling old badger, so the claim that he would incite people to violence seems pretty far-fetched.
He displayed a map of Congressman Cummings' home in relation to the nearest briar patch, told his viewers where to purchase a, quote, good pulling horse, and used a life-size dummy of Congressman Cummings to demonstrate effective knot-tying techniques.
Right. I think most reasonable people would see that as simply a ribald political satire.
Right.
Briar patch is obviously a metaphor for the prickly political atmosphere in Washington, and drag from a horse means something else.
Makes sense to me.
This is the Onion News Network.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. Talk radio you control, if you choose to. And the way you do that is by calling the phone number 6032-836-160. You can bring up whatever you'd like. Or you can talk about what we're talking about in the studio. And the we in the studio tonight is Stu.
And Riley O'Bell.
Yes, it is Saturday, the 11th I believe.
Saturday Night Live. We're almost halfway through the month of April already. Can you believe it?
Goodness.
I know. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah. So if you're growing some vegetables of your own, it's about time that you're thinking about that already. Getting your preparations underway.
I know in southern Utah, we planted our gardens in like February and March.
Oh man, don't make me jealous. I know how it is there. I know the growing season here is just pathetic, but
yeah, it's not as long as it would be in southern Utah, from what I hear.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have yet to make a successful food crop that feeds me more than like a couple of bites. So we'll see if I can get it this year.
All right, keep us posted.
Mm-hmm. At least like, I don't know, a head of lettuce or a couple of carrots or something would be good.
Yeah, I've never tried growing my own food, but I'm imagining it's better than buying it from the store. It might not be as cheap, but
yep. A lot of the store food is absolute garbage, and anything you can do to eat real healthy food and supplement the garbage food that we eat with real food is going to, I think, increase your quality of life and longevity as well.
Yeah, that's why I want to learn how to get better at cooking so I can cook for myself and put healthier things in my body. I want to live a little longer than 40 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. As far as extending the end, I wouldn't, avoid that, certainly. I'd definitely like to feel okay along the way. I don't want to spend the last decade in agony or,
or ridden with cancer.
Or have my colon removed or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a caller on the line, so we're going to go to the phones. Anthony, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hey guys, I'm calling tonight. I'm just pondering some stuff, I guess, in my head, and wanted to poke your guys' brain on secession and what that means, because really the libertarian movement is probably not going anywhere until we change the money system, right? I mean, and it's proven since Ron Paul's, Lovolution, we're not changing the money system. Everyone got duped with Trump.
Yeah,
that's pretty clear by now.
Yeah, so and people are trying to say Trump has changed, but do you think he's changed, or do you think this is just what you get? And he showed us who he was in his first go around.
I was optimistic in his first go around. As soon as he attacked the Second Amendment with the bump stock ban, I was super cautionary. So I've been holding him under a microscope for quite a bit, for a long time.
That's a wise move with anybody.
Yeah, and so you're anti-Second Amendment. You're obviously the enemy to freedom, in my opinion. So, I think secession is the only way, because we can't fix the money under this system, the voluntary system of love and change. Like it's not working, and that's where I'm starting to just think. And that, man, I was so close. I haven't called in years. Sorry to kind of rant here. The last time I called, it had to have been when one of the very first pork fests. It's been freaking years.
Well, thanks for the call.
Yeah.
So you've already asked us. You've already asked us what we thought of
questions, and thank you. Bye bye.
Oh well, I wanted to find out what Anthony what secession means to him.
Well, I can talk about my opinions of secession. To me, secession is the ability to say we no longer want to be part of this political union that has been part of our lives for hundreds of years. And so we should have the right to say, no, we want out of this union. We want the right to divorce you. We want the right to leave you. And Anthony was right. We need to change the money system in order for that to be effective. We can't be relying on the same money system that has enslaved our country for years and years and enslaves the global monetary supply with absolute debt.
Wouldn't that be laughable to say, hey, we want off the We want off the apron strings of big government, but we're still going to use your currency.
That would be absolutely laughable, because here you are saying, we want to, Mommy and Daddy, we want to leave your house, but we want you to pay our bills. And no, it doesn't work that way.
No, I agree. You gotta cut ties all the way if you're going to do it.
Absolutely.
In your opinion, Riley, is there a minimum amount that required to secede? Could one county secede from the United States? Could one neighborhood? Could one street? Could one household? Could one individual?
I think one individual could secede from the United States. However, it would prove to be very, very difficult because, we live in a world where people say, if you're living in a plot of land, a geographical polygon of land, you have to abide by its rules and you are under its government.
Yeah, I would say nonsense. And you guys are all living in fairy tale land and make 'em ups. That's adult pretend time that you're engaging in there, because there's no. So what you're calling the law of the land is that which some men wrote down and said this is the law of the land, but that's not the way law truly works in the world. The way the law works is that laws exist whether you write them down or not. So
how does that manifest in the world, in your opinion?
It's as simple as cause and effect.
Okay.
If you go around being a jerk, you're going to get, people aren't going to want you around.
Yeah.
To varying different degrees, depending on how big of a jerk you're being. So, and that's what we call cause and effect. That's the law right there. If you go around causing problems for others, there's going to be problems, and then problems are going to land in your lap, and you're going to have to deal with them.
That is definitely a good point. Also, I don't know if there's a name for this law, but if you are lazy and you don't work for a living or do anything to provide anything of service to another human being, and you're perpetually just lazy and you do nothing, what happens is no one wants to hang out with you because you provide nothing to them. And no one wants to have you exist because you provide nothing good. So therefore, they just want to take you out. And that's the natural order of things, unfortunately, or fortunately, because if it wasn't, trash would pile up everywhere. And decomposition is a thing in nature because, things die and things have to decay in order to make way for new things.
You see, though, people have these weird Calvinistic ideas about lazy people, right? So if a person's being lazy, but they're not causing any harm and they're doing it very minimalistically, in such a way that they're not actually being a burden on anybody else, then who cares? Why is it your business? What you think? So the Calvinists have this idea that work is a good just in and of itself.
Yeah.
Work is just a good thing. Well, that's not true. It just isn't. Like, it might be fun for you. It might not be fun for the next guy. And how dare you moralize him for it?
That's an interesting take.
The only thing you can moralize for a person and their actions is when they're causing harm or problems for anybody else.
So you're saying that if someone is working in a society, let's say that I'm baking bread in a society, you're saying that I'm not providing a good thing for society.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
Okay.
I'm saying if you wanted to sit there and not do anything at all, as long as you weren't a burden on anybody else to feed you, clothe you, shelter you, any of that stuff, you didn't get in people's way, you didn't have your mess sprawling out in people's stuff, then who has any business to tell you that you need to get a job or be productive?
So, for example, someone living out in the woods doing absolutely nothing with their lives, just hanging out in the woods, not bothering anybody, not leaving messes everywhere and keeping a clean place, they're still fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some people, they just drive past and see that and then honk at them and be like, get a job, you bum.
Yeah.
But, why? I don't get it. What is your problem with that person?
That's an interesting take because, they're living off the land, essentially. They're eating, what the forest provides them, and they're keeping their area clean. They're leaving no trace. And so I can understand where you're coming from. That's not a problem for society at all if someone wants to do that.
Mm-hmm. So I guess there's nothing necessarily wrong with a group of people getting together and saying these are the rules that exist. These are the laws we've observed exist in nature, and we agree that we will respect the laws which are already in existence. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it becomes a problem when people are like, "Oh, I can just write the law because I'm the authority."
Yeah,
you see the connection there because the word author is right in it. It means I got to write the law, and that's not. You can't. Nobody has that right, and nobody has the right to dictate that right to anybody else, or to, you can't pass that right along. I can't tell Riley, "Hey, will you please on my behalf go and rob somebody?" It's not. That's not within my rights, and it's not within Riley's.
Yeah.
So, it's amazing how few people understand this very simple concept that a 3-year-old could probably figure out if they sat down and thought about it for a little while. But people just go on with their adult pretend time lives thinking that, because a group of us said that this is okay for us to steal from you and to cage you and to, do all manner of horrible things, disrupt your way of life and encroach on your mental well-being constantly. This is okay because we all agreed that we're going to dictate these people right here with the shiny badges get to do it to you.
Yeah.
This is nonsense. This is absolutely insane. And this is the state of, the society we live in. In fact, most societies on the planet. And people are like, you can just get out. But that's absolutely true. I could just get out. I could leave America. But where am I going to go? That people don't think they can delegate the right to do something that they never had a right to do in the first place.
So my question is for you, Stu, is if people are in the mindset of, I'm waking up to the fact that I can't boss people around and tell people what to do because I don't have the right to, where should they go from there?
They should have some introspection, I think, as to how their actions violate that principle, and then to stop doing those things. And it's that simple. Do whatever else you want to in the world, but don't do those things which encroach on the liberties of others.
Okay. That's what I think too. I think a lot of people fail to take the step of realizing, I can't boss anybody around because I don't have the rights to. And so I'm going to I should do the best I can to live out that principle. And I think that's the really hard part is, a lot of people live in a world where they say, we got to have good health care. We want health care should not be expensive. We need free health care for people because people deserve health care. We deserve to have health care. And so we need to make it as free for people as we can.
This is an excellent point of the absolute retarded thinking that I'm describing, where healthcare should be whatever it is, whatever you make it. And what you've made it is an absolute abomination, for one.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you want it cheap? Medical murder is, I think, the leading cause of death. So
really,
yeah, I'm pretty sure that's accurate.
Are you talking about euthanasia, or
no? I'm talking about these the combination of these doctors. I don't even like the word doctor. It just gives me a creepy feeling. These lab coats that and their relationship to the pharmacists, where they'll deal you a bottle of harm.
Yeah,
and like first day baby just came out of the womb. Welcome to the world. Here's your hepatitis jab. Oh, your baby died? That must be sudden infant death syndrome.
Yeah.
Because sometimes babies just die. Couldn't have anything to do with at all with this, this syringe full of poison that we just jammed into your baby. Nothing to do with all with that. And people believe this nonsense, and they just carry on the same way.
Would you consider yourself an anti-vaxxer?
I don't.
I know you don't. I know that term feels really uncomfortable, I'm sure, because it's loaded with a lot of derogatory meaning. But would you consider yourself anti-vaxxer?
I'm anti whatever they're giving out.
Okay.
We can put it that way. So whatever they put out on the market and call it a vaccine right now, I'm against that.
I'm not
whether a non-harmful true vaccine could be made. I think maybe, but they're not making them. They're making poison. And if you don't believe me, listen. There are plenty of whistleblowers, people who are actually making these things, are very well educated on the subject, and they know way more than I do. And I know that's an appeal to the smartest person in the room, which is not anything. But what these people have said, I've looked into, holds up. It totally checks out. Scientific community says yes, that's accurate. And so what it comes down to is, until they can prove to me that these things are actually safe, which they don't even test them. Like, they test them, I guess, but like the COVID shot, you know what the test was? It was the people who took it, the people who went to their Walgreens and got it.
Essentially, it seems that way because they definitely rushed the vaccine out as quickly as possible. I know they at least did a test study, but it was a small population sample.
It was like 10 people.
Wow.
And they even had to fudge the numbers on that because it messed up a bunch of them. I don't know if 10's accurate. I know it was way insufficient. It was not a study at all. And they don't double blind them. The studies aren't even done right when they do them. So and not only that, why would they need an exemption from lawsuits in order to operate a business? They said, we're not going to make these anymore unless you make it so that nobody can legally sue us for damage we've done to them with our crappy product, our absolute poisonous product.
If true, that's really concerning that they have an exemption because
they've had it since Ronald Reagan.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, and most people don't even know about this. So there's a thing called vaccine court. And if you end up with a serious vaccine injury and you want some reparations for that, you can go to what's called vaccine court, and it has a more official actual name, but that's like the colloquial term. And if you get a payout there, you're not allowed to talk about it, and that's why people don't even know about this thing. It's paid out billions of dollars.
Wow.
Billions. A lot of people hurt by vaccines. You just don't hear about it because they can't talk about it once they've taken the money.
I wouldn't consider myself an anti-vaxxer. What I would say is that I'm pro the idea of having a vaccine and having immunity to diseases by whatever means we can establish it, even if it's just by natural immunity or vaccine. My concern is that, if they're exempt, they shouldn't be. They should be treated like every other business. And we shouldn't be forcing parents to vaccinate their kids. And if they choose to not vaccinate the kids, the state doesn't have a right to come in and say, you have to vaccinate your child or else we're taking them from you.
They don't actually have that right. That's another, adult pretend time thing people are doing. They think the state has that right, but they don't. They'll make it sound like they do, and they'll say words that sound like that's what they're telling you, but it's not actually the case. The state takes your kids away because you let them.
Yeah.
And also, you don't have to vaccinate your children. You might have to if you want them to go to public school, which is child abuse anyways. So please don't do that.
Well, I don't know if I don't know if I'd go as far as to say that it was child abuse.
Public school is child abuse, hands down. Absolutely, is child abuse. Because you've gone through a program for 15,000 hours, and the entire goal of it is a state called learned helplessness, and this is one of the saddest human conditions that I've ever encountered mentally. They put you in a position where you've learned to be helpless, to look for the authority to help you do anything in life.
Maybe that's why we're so reliant on authorities, because someone has been indoctrinating us through government school.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
You send your kids to Caesar's school, don't be surprised when they come home talking like a Roman.
Oh, well, I'm one of the people that was educated in government school, and, it's definitely hard to overcome that indoctrination because, like you said, we're going through this program for, 12 years of our lives? And in some cases more because we're going through the quote-unquote university system and they're government-funded. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely hard to overcome Roman thinking, as you put it.
And people make up all kinds of excuses for this. And when you back them right up against it, it comes down to I need a daytime babysitter, and this is who I send them to.
Yeah.
They're feeding your children absolute crap. They don't have to give them back to you, and they're brainwashing them in one of the worst ways possible. Stop sending your children there. Otherwise, you're kind of just a bag of trash. Maybe you should clear yourself away or change it.
That's a little harsh to call the listeners a bag of trash.
Well, that's too bad. That's what it is. I've been a bag of trash. I've been in that state in my life. And you know what I did is I changed it. I didn't like being a bag of trash. And so
essentially you took yourself out.
I cleared away the rubble and I cleaned myself up. And I still have flaws. Every human does. And I will until the day I die. But when I recognize a behavior as being damaging to somebody, I cease engagement in that behavior. Even if there's all kinds of incentive for me to keep doing it, it's not within my rights. So I stop doing it. It's pretty simple. I don't know why everybody is having such a hard time figuring it out. And, people act like they're suffering, but why do you think you're suffering? This is your own fault. And you got to learn some of what is called universal morality and engage in that. And then maybe things will start going the way you want them to.
If you're uncomfortable with Stu calling you a trash bag, call 603-283-6160.
Let's have a conversation about it. This is Free Talk Live.
Everything you're already doing still isn't enough? I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. When you're shopping bricks and mortar, ask for an open box. I saved a couple $100 on the computer I'm writing this on. Still brand new and under warranty. Shopping online? Before you check out that cart, open a separate browser and Google promo codes for the company you're shopping. And if you're a member, try AAA or AARP. Shopping for services? On vacation, I flossed off a crown, and the nearest dentist wanted $75 to re-cement it. When I asked, discount for cash? The doc pocketed the crisp $50 I offered. Threatened to quit. Many subscription services and publications will counteroffer. How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks at andyoucanquoteme.com.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. US President Donald Trump says the US military will remain in the Middle East to ensure that Iran opens the Strait of Hormuz. In a social media post, Mr. Trump detailed America's non-negotiables ahead of talks with Iran. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
Donald Trump is making it clear that he wants what he wants and he's prepared to use the US military to get it. He says that all US ships, aircraft and military personnel with additional ammunition and weaponry will remain in place in and around Iran. That's until both sides reach what he's calling a real agreement. And he flags two sticking points, red lines for the US, that Iran must have no nuclear weapons and that the Strait of Hormuz must be open and safe. The US president sticking to those positions and making it clear he will not concede on those points. He said if those don't happen, then the shooting starts. More threats that are showing the cracks in diplomacy ahead of planned talks between the US and Iran in Pakistan. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
European leaders voiced alarm this week over the situation in Lebanon and its impact on the fragile US-Iran truce. The Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's contempt for life and international law was intolerable. Ross Cullen reports.
The French Foreign Ministry said the strikes by the IDF were, quote, all the more unacceptable as they jeopardise the temporary ceasefire between the United States and Iran. The IDF said it was targeting Hezbollah sites in Lebanon, but Israeli forces reportedly detained a Spanish UN peacekeeper and fired warning shots at an Italian convoy. Madrid and Rome demanded answers from the Israeli government, with the Italian foreign minister warning of a second Gaza. EU officials also warned that high prices and potential shortages of jet fuel could last into the summer.
Meanwhile, NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte said that member countries are doing everything US President Donald Trump had requested to strengthen the military alliance, even if some were initially a bit slow to provide support to America and its war with Iran. Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
The two men met at the White House on Wednesday amid tensions within the alliance over the Iran war. The US president has threatened to withdraw from the transatlantic security alliance in recent weeks. He argues that European allies haven't provided enough support for the US war in Iran while relying on US security guarantees. The NATO chief acknowledged that some allies were a bit slow to support the US. He noted they were also a bit surprised, given President Trump opted not to inform them before starting the war. But he argued that today allies are providing a massive amount of support, saying they've heard and are responding to President Trump's requests.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. Talk radio you control. You can call and get your thoughts and ideas on the air. The phone number is 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus, you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny, liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. That's LibertyMinded.com. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Riley O'Bill.
We've got callers on the line, so that's the point of the show. So let's go to the phones. Sarah in New Mexico, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Oh, there's only two of you today?
Only two of us.
Yeah.
Is that bad?
No, it's okay. Because then there's that I get to do more talking if there's only two of you. So
okay,
that's good.
What do you want to talk about, Sarah?
Anyway, well, there's this street. Did I talk about that tramway? It's like a federal highway. They had a big meeting, NMDOT, how to improve the safety. And on TV, they talked about a whole bunch of things. They're redesigning, getting rid of the right turn, putting a bicycle lane on the east and the west. And what got my attention is they were to have alert the drivers that there's pedestrians in the crosswalk. And I'm just like, what? Well, are they going to do noisy sounds? Are they going to have the flashing lights? What is their plan to alert the drivers that there's pedestrians in the crosswalk? And so they have. So I guess if there
so can drivers look and see if there are pedestrians in this crosswalk?
Well, that's what I thought. That's what I'm thinking about, right? I mean.
Okay, so the thing is, Riley, the streets in Albuquerque, New Mexico are a lot like those in Salt Lake City, Utah, where sometimes they might be 3 wide on each side, so you might have 7 total lanes. And then, a couple of those lanes might be full and cars stop there, but there's a green light or something. You can't see that there's a person walking in front of those cars, and if you blow through, you're going to plow into that person. So, and it's kind of like that. So I think what this is probably a flashing light. Like on Route 9 here, there's one flashing light where 63 cuts across it because I guess a lot of people used to get smashed up pretty good right there. And so now they have a flashing light to let you know when somebody is pulling up to the intersection there at 63, because 9 goes straight through, 63 has to stop.
Okay, so this alert thing does have this crossing alert does have some use. I wasn't aware of that, and so I'm glad it was corrected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not necessarily a terrible idea.
Okay.
So okay, if you get to the intersection, if you could see a red light, doesn't mean that the people that are walking, they have the right of way. So why would they need additional flashing yellow light? I mean, I'm trying to, how far do they put that before they get to the intersection? Like a quarter mile, 1/8 of a mile? We're looking at 30 feet. What?
Yeah, I don't know.
How much before?
I don't know. I'm sure somebody will get paid way too much to figure it out, though, because they always do in government jobs like this. And then the guys who build it will probably, their bid's going to be twice what it should be. And then by the time they're done, they'll end up having to charge 3 times what their bid was. And this was all pre-planned because, government and corruption and waste and fraud and abuse. So there's all of that.
I don't know. They already had all this planned, and then they were going to have a meeting an hour later. But I guess they have to have an open meeting to the public just to let them include them into it. But they announced what they're going to do 2 hours before they had the meeting at 6 o'clock. So, but I guess
that's kind of them to at least have a meeting about it instead of just doing the thing, I guess. Would anybody have cared had they just skipped the meeting altogether and just done what they were going to do?
Oh, yes. Later on, if they do all this without having public meetings, they could actually sue the city. You never notified anybody. They have to announce a meeting, and then they...
Didn't you just say they only announced the meeting like 2 hours before they had it?
No, they announced the meeting, I heard on the radio, like 3-4 hours. But they were talking about what they were going to do on the TV.
How's anybody supposed to make it of that? Everybody's at work except for Sarah.
Well, I don't know. People that are not...
Yeah, so why don't they just go ahead and do it anyways?
Well, but see, the thing is that they have to act like they have announced it. And they had...
Oh, they're acting. I see. It's all pretend.
I don't know about pretend. I don't know how much of the idea they already decided what to do.
They just pretend that they care what you think, but they're gonna do what they want to anyways. And that part's not pretend.
Well, I guess but they have to do it if they don't want lawsuit. They can't do all these without including the public, or you could.
Yeah, but who's in charge? But who's in charge of the courts? You think they're really that worried about a lawsuit? They get to decide the outcome there. And I'm guessing they're not going to find themselves at fault.
Yeah, that's true. But this flashing light, I think I heard about it with the animal migration. They were talking about it. So they have the animals do a little loop, right? It's the same loop, and they go right over a highway, and they all get killed. Yeah, they go.
Well, they don't all get killed, or otherwise it wouldn't be a problem anymore. Because they all got killed. Right. But there are some that survive, so they figured out where they cross, and they want to put, some kind of warning there too, and that's fine.
Yeah,
but I could go out and do that.
Right?
But I could go out and do that for $150, whereas the government's going to spend $3,000 to get, one stupid little sign put up.
Oh, by the way,
and not only that, but if I did go out and do it for $150, the government would come and take it down, and they might even, tell me I violated some kind of a statute, and that they want me to pay them money to make it okay.
Well, you're not an official engineer with a degree that the city hired you to do the job.
All right. Thanks for the call tonight, Sarah. I can't take any more of that. What does a degree even mean? Come on now.
Well, a degree, at least according to some people, is you've obtained the knowledge necessary to do this thing.
Yeah, guess what? You can get all that knowledge on YouTube.
You probably could, and you could probably do an apprentice with somebody and gain the same knowledge.
In fact, I don't know how many people have had this experience, but a lot of people will walk into their doctor's office and I say, I have this weird thing happening, and the doctor pulls out his phone and Googles it. Because he doesn't know any better than you do. You could sit on your own couch and Google it and figure it out. But, The guy's got a lab coat and a piece of paper that says he's magical. Let's go to Dave Ridley. Dave Ridley, what's on your mind tonight?
Hey, guys. Have you heard, I guess about a day ago, some guy threw a Molotov cocktail at the home of the CEO of Closed AI.
Oh, really? I didn't hear about this.
That's Sam Altman's home?
Yes.
Huh. Okay. No, I didn't hear about that. I don't watch the news, though.
When things like this happen, it's a teachable moment and an opportunity to talk about Erica Chenoweth. Do you know who she is?
No, I've never heard the name.
No.
So she's sort of the scientist of civil resistance, and a person who once believed that violence was the only way you could overthrow a government, basically. And she came to believe from her studies that actually if your movement uses violence, against people in the government, then its chances of success drop dramatically, roughly by 50%. So
you're saying chances go down once violence gets initiated? Is that what you said?
That's correct. Yeah, you're throwing the Molotov cocktail at yourself.
Okay.
So Closed AI is not yet the government. There's probably, I would say, about a 20% chance they will become the government within the next 10 years.
Yeah, it's headed that way.
Yeah, it's now, it's possible that another AI company will build the super weapon before they do, and it takes over before Closed AI gets a chance to. Or maybe we're just all wrong, and that's not the way superintelligence works. But it's just it's a good chance to talk up the importance of remaining nonviolent and to give Erica Chenoweth a listen, because she really has done the research and explains the ways that you do overthrow people like Closed AI or the government.
Well, that's an excellent point, Dave. You're absolutely right. So in this case, whoever threw the Molotov at Sam Altman's house was in the wrong, because whatever their problem is with what's going on, it wasn't Sam Altman doing it directly to him. Sam Altman probably doesn't even know the person exists, right? Somebody just doesn't like what Sam Altman's doing, even, maybe they have some moral problem with it. This is kind of reminded me of the Ted Kaczynski stuff, where he's like, technology is going to take over society. It's going to take over the world. And these are the people helping it along. And if, something drastic doesn't happen, then that's where we're headed, and it's going to be horrible. And that's definitely a well-guided notion. However, the violence that ensued afterward was poorly misguided. So you can see that it didn't change anything. It certainly didn't slow the technocracy down one bit.
So Chenoweth claims that the most effective thing you can do against an autocratic government, which, again, Closed AI is trying to become, as best I can tell, the most effective thing you can do against them is usually a labor strike, but those are hard to organize, and I'm not sure how one of those would be implemented against Closed AI. What you could do, though, and what I do, is just absolutely never click on anything that's going to send them any money. Like if you have an account, that's got a bunch of different AIs you can use, you just don't click on theirs. Because you're going to get charged 10 cents or 20 cents. You make sure none of that ever goes to them. That's what I've been doing for the last year and a half, I guess.
Yep, voting with your dollar is definitely important.
That's all I have.
All right. Well,
thanks for the call, Ridley.
Yeah, thanks for the call. I'm definitely going to look into this Erica Chenoweth. Sounds like she's got some interesting ideas.
It sounds like she does, because when you introduce violence, people don't listen to violence.
Well,
I mean, they'll listen, but it's not the listening you want.
So here's really what the problem is with you trying to think you can use violence to get to get any kind of an edge in this fight is that you're not the side that's good at violence, right? The oligarchy is the side that's good at violence. They got a bunch of monkeys with freaking camouflage suits that will show you so too.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the callers we have on the line right now. So let's get into this story that I found at Activist Post. This is from Matt Agarist. Looks like it was posted on April 9th. As Epstein's clients walk free, an innocent man rots in a cage for promoting liberty. While the political establishment buries the names of elite predators and engineers foreign bloodshed to distract the masses, a peaceful man is losing nearly a decade of his life in a federal cage for the crime of helping people bypass the fiat banking cartel. The glaring reality of the American justice system is not that it is broken, but that it functions exactly as intended to protect the elite while crushing the peaceful and creative. To see this in action, you need to look no further than the fact that years after the most prolific child trafficking ring in history was exposed, not a single one of Jeffrey Epstein's high-profile American clients has seen the inside of a jail cell. Just look at the absolute theater surrounding the Epstein files. This administration actually campaigned on a platform of transparency, promising to finally expose this elite predator ring to the world.
But when Pam Bondi tried to comment on it, when people tried to ask Pam Bondi about it, she was commenting more about the Dow being above 50,000 at the time, which is an absurd thing to say.
Well, understandably, she's panicked. She said, within the first few months of the new administration, she said, I've got it all on my desk.
Yep, it's right here on my desk. We'll get right to it.
Let's see. First, we were told the unredacted files were on the desk, ready for total declassification. Then the narrative abruptly shifted. The administration claimed the files didn't even exist, later dismissing the justifiable public outcry as nothing more than a Democrat hoax. When they finally did dump a batch of documents under immense pressure, it was a masterclass in state-sponsored cover-ups. Tens of thousands of pages with the names of the biggest political and financial power players heavily redacted or mysteriously scrubbed from the DOJ's website overnight. But the true sleight of hand happened next, just as the heat on the Epstein cover-up was reaching a boiling point, the war drums began beating for Iran. It's no coincidence that the state escalated a catastrophic overseas conflict precisely when they needed a massive distraction from the predators operating within their own ranks. As I pointed out recently, Google Trends data exposes this manipulation perfectly. The exact moment the media manufactured interest in Iran skyrocketed, the public's focus on the Epstein files flatlined. The political class effectively engineered a bloodbath to change the news cycle. And now, the trafficking network that serviced the world's most powerful people has conveniently vanished from the headlines. We live in a world where government actors can orchestrate this kind of mass slaughter, like the horrifying reality of the state murdering over 100 schoolgirls in Iran, and absolutely no one faces justice. The politicians and enforcers responsible for these atrocities will never spend a fraction of a second behind bars, nor will they ever offer an apology for the blood on their hands. Meanwhile, Ian Freeman, a man whose only so-called crime was facilitating voluntary cryptocurrency exchanges, sits rotting in a federal cage. I don't know if he's rotting. Ian's not the kind of guy to rot.
No, he's not rotting at all.
However, he is in a federal cage, and he does not belong to be there.
That's right. He definitely doesn't belong there, but he's also thriving in that cage. He's doing the best he can.
The juxtaposition is sickening, but it perfectly illustrates the priorities of a ruling class that views individual liberty as far greater threat than systemic predation and mass slaughter of children. When a peaceful man in New Hampshire helps people bypass the fiat banking cartel using Bitcoin, the full force of the empire is brought down upon his head. Freeman's conviction is a masterclass in prosecutorial overreach and judicial acrobatics. Yes, it is. As we noted in a previous breakdown of this political imprisonment, he was effectively railroaded for supposedly conspiring to launder money with an undercover federal agent. Under well-established federal law, it is legally impossible to form a criminal conspiracy with a government agent. Yet the First Circuit Court of Appeals enthusiastically upheld his 8-year sentence anyway, when they officially denied his appeal. They threw an innocent man in a cage over regulatory infractions and the testimony of an IRS agent who admitted under oath that Freeman might actually owe nothing in taxes. The financial destruction the state has leveled against him is just as absurd as the cage they put him in. In addition to his 8-year sentence, a federal judge ordered Freeman to pay over $3.5 million in restitution to victims of internet romance scams carried out by third parties Freeman didn't know and never colluded with. The government is literally criminalizing the act of not acting as a financial spy for the state, punishing Freeman for running a business that respected customer privacy by disabling surveillance features on his Bitcoin kiosks. Fortunately, those who actually understand the concept of liberty haven't forgotten him. Free staters have been pursuing a concerted effort to demand a pardon for Freeman, pointing out the blatant hypocrisy of a system that selectively doles out clemency while burying whistleblowers in agorists. The push continues through platforms like freeiannow.org and the daily advocacy of his co-host Mark Edge on Free Talk Live. Last year, we had Edge on the TFTP podcast to talk about this very issue. The cruelty of this system is designed to break the individual and systematically erase them from the public consciousness. A recent post from the Free Talk Live X account captured his grim psychological warfare perfectly, stating, "The cruelest thing a cage does is to teach the world how to keep moving without you." Freeman is losing years of his life that he will never get back, punished strictly because he refused to bow to the financial surveillance state, while the people who care about him are left trying to hold his place in the world. We cannot allow his absence to become a normalized footnote in the alternative media space. The state relies on our short attention spans to quietly disappear those who challenge its monopoly on money and power. It is on all of us to keep his name alive, to push for his immediate release, and to continue exposing the rampant hypocrisy of the government that shelters elite predators while imprisoning peaceful advocates for liberty. And then at the bottom it says, please take a moment from your day to sign the petition demanding Ian's immediate release. And you can find that at freeiannow.org. That's the end of this article.
That's a well-written article. I actually really like it because, here we are talking about the founder of this show who has taken this show up to the point where it is today. And he's done a really good job. Like, he was the voice that I really liked on Free Talk Live because, he...
Pretty sure he's everybody's favorite.
Yeah, he definitely was willing to push liberty to the point where he was willing to challenge government people, and that is an heroic effort. Like, I don't know if I could do something like that. That just doing something like that kind of scares me a little bit, but at the same time, it's something to look forward to or look up to, because we've got to learn how to stand up for ourselves.
That's right. That's an example of a human who is not trash, who understands very well how his actions would have a negative effect on others and avoids those types of actions.
Right.
Also, he's industrious and brave and he's quite a gentleman, a giant among men. We look forward to the day that we get to see him again.
Indeed, it'll be nice.
Yep. All right, so we've got also Riley brought in some stories. I don't know which one you like the most.
Let's do the one talking about the law on distilling, on home distilling.
Indeed. Appeals court declares law against distilling unconstitutional. The moonshiners are like, yeehaw.
I can imagine the hillbillies out in the Appalachians being like, heck yeah, we can distill our own liquor now.
The U.S. Appeals Court on Friday declared unconstitutional a nearly 158-year-old ban on home distilling, calling it an unnecessary and improper means for Congress to exercise its power to tax. We are going to get into this story. This should be good. I wonder if this is really going to hurt like the big alcohol business. I wonder how many people are going to take advantage of this and start distilling their own booze at home.
That'll be interesting to find out because, big alcohol has a huge hold on America.
Give us a call. Have you just been waiting for them to repeal this act so you can make your own moonshine? The phone number here is 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if we get enough supporters, we may enable members-only chat. This new subscription method is a great way to decentralize our direct listener support away from just Patreon and also support a libertarian-run business, Odyssey. Please visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join to subscribe to our Odyssey channel and help support spreading our message around the planet. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join today.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. US President Donald Trump says the US military will remain in the Middle East to ensure that Iran opens the Strait of Hormuz. In a social media post, Mr. Trump detailed America's non-negotiables ahead of talks with Iran that are taking place in Pakistan. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
Donald Trump is making it clear that he wants what he wants and he's prepared to use the US military to get it. He says that all US ships, aircraft and military personnel with additional ammunition and weaponry will remain in place in and around Iran. That's until both sides reach what he's calling a real agreement. And he flags 2 sticking points, red lines for the US. That Iran must have no nuclear weapons and that the Strait of Hormuz must be open and safe. The US president sticking to those positions and making it clear he will not concede on those points. He said if those don't happen, then the shooting starts. More threats that are showing the cracks in diplomacy ahead of planned talks between the US and Iran in Pakistan. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
European leaders voiced alarm this week over the situation in Lebanon and its impact on the fragile US-Iran truce. The Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's contempt for life and international law was intolerable. Ross Cullen reports.
The French Foreign Ministry said the strikes by the IDF were, quote, all the more unacceptable as they jeopardise the temporary ceasefire between the United States and Iran. The IDF said it was targeting Hezbollah sites in Lebanon, but Israeli forces reportedly detained a Spanish UN peacekeeper and fired warning shots at an Italian convoy. Madrid and Rome demanded answers from the Israeli government, with the Italian foreign minister warning of a second Gaza. EU officials also warned that high prices and potential shortages of jet fuel could last into the summer.
Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that member countries are doing everything US President Donald Trump had requested to strengthen the military alliance, even if some were initially a bit slow to provide support to America and its war with Iran. Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
The two men met at the White House on Wednesday amid tensions within the alliance over the Iran war. The US president has threatened to withdraw from the transatlantic security alliance in recent weeks. He argues that European allies haven't provided enough support for the US war in Iran while relying on US security guarantees. The NATO chief acknowledged that some allies were a bit slow to support the US. He noted they were also a bit surprised, given President Trump opted not to inform them before starting the war. But he argued that today allies are providing a massive amount of support, saying they've heard and are responding to President Trump's requests. On Thursday morning, Mr. Trump posted on social media that NATO was very disappointing.
The fertility rate in the US hit another record low last year. Fresh federal data shows that the number of births fell by 1% to just over 3.6 million. Tony Waterman has more.
The U.S. fertility rate has been in decline since 2007. Nearly 23% fewer babies are born now than then. Teenage pregnancies have seen the sharpest declines and are now sitting at record lows. The data shows that fertility rates among women in their 30s and 40s are actually increasing, but it's not enough to offset a slowdown among younger women. Experts say the high cost of childcare, housing, and a desire by women to have careers are among the many reasons why the fertility rate continues to fall. Tony Waterman, Washington.
And finally, Moscow announced a short-term Easter truce with Ukraine for the weekend. Kiev agreed to respond in kind if Russia indeed observes the proposed ceasefire. The Ukrainian leader also announced that preparations are underway for a new round of settlement talks with Russia, expected in the near future. Daria Bondarchuk has more from Moscow.
The two-day ceasefire announced by Russian President Vladimir Putin is scheduled to begin at 4 p.m. local time on Saturday, April 11, and would last until the end of Sunday, the 12th of April. Moscow said it has seen Kiev's statements that it's ready to support the truce and expects Ukraine to follow Russia's lead. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky promised to act accordingly in case Moscow too refrains from new strikes. He also said that preparations for a new round of settlement talks with Russia and the United States are underway. Negotiations could take place in the form of a trilateral meeting or a round of shuttle diplomacy, with Moscow and Kyiv talking to the American side separately. Daria Bondarchuk, Moscow.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
Fossilized evidence reveals the Spazosaurus was the largest doofus ever to roam the Earth, and a new tandem mobility scooter is released. This is the Onion Week in Review, damn it, and we're going to need you to demonstrate a little decorum. Got it? This week, economists confirm that the booming tear gas industry continues to lead the world's economic recovery. Financial experts confirm that the growing demand for tear gas in countries like Turkey, Brazil, and Greece has increased over 20% annually over the past few years, and is anticipated to continue playing a major role in the world economy.
The market for tear gas just keeps sustaining itself and growing. We can only hope that more people demand tear gas in the coming months, and the recovery will be here sooner than we thought.
In other news, a community is devastated by the sight of an old man struggling up some steps. A stack of unused CDRs turns 5 years old, and this zoo is really promoting the hell out of their new fruit bat. Your diligence and patience have been noted. Prove yourself further at theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, talk radio you control. Give us a call. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. You can talk about whatever you like. We'll have a conversation with you about it. If you're tired of the oppressive rules and moderation of the big tech social media sites, our Mastodon server at social.freetalklive.com can set you free. Mastodon is free, open source, decentralized, and federated. Multiple apps are available for iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, and Linux. Social.freetalklive.com. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Riley O'Bell.
We were just about to dive into this article found at Reuters. It was posted yesterday, April 10th.
And we're talking about a law that was found unconstitutional by an appeals court.
Law. A very old law.
150-year-old law.
158 years.
Wow.
A U.S. appeals court on Friday declared unconstitutional a nearly 158-year-old federal ban on home distilling, calling it an unnecessary and improper means for Congress to exercise its power to tax. The Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans ruled in favor of the nonprofit Hobby Distillers Association and 4 of its 1,300 members. They argued that people should be free to distill spirits at home, whether as a hobby or for personal consumption, including, in one instance, to create an apple pie vodka recipe. The ban was part of a law passed during Reconstruction in July 1868, in part to thwart liquor tax evasion and subject violators to up to 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. That was $10,000 was a ton in 1858.
Oh yeah, the dollar definitely had a lot more purchasing power in the 1800s, late 1800s especially, more than it does today.
Yeah, a dollar meant gold back then.
Yeah.
No, it just means, the promise of a bunch of liars. Waiting for a 3-judge panel, Circuit Judge Edith Holland Jones said the ban actually reduced tax revenue by preventing distilling in the first place. Unlike laws that regulated the manufacture of and labeling of distilled spirits on which the government could collect taxes. She also said that under the government's logic, Congress could criminalize virtually any in-home activity that might escape notice from tax collectors, including remote work and home-based businesses. Don't give them ideas. Without any limiting principle, the government's theory would violate this court's obligation to read the Constitution carefully to avoid creating a general federal authority akin to the police power, Jones wrote. The U.S. Department of Justice had no immediate comment. Another defendant, the Treasury Department's Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau, did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Devin Watkins, a lawyer, also pronounced liar, representing the Hobby Distillers Association in an interview called the ruling an important decision about the limits of federal power. Andrew Grossman, who argued the nonprofit's appeal, called the decision an important victory for individual liberty that lets the plaintiffs pursue their passion to distill fine beverages in their homes. I look forward to sampling their output, he said. The decision upheld a July 2024 ruling by U.S. District Judge Mark Pittman in Fort Worth, Texas. He put his ruling on hold so the government could appeal. That's where that article ends.
Finally, a ruling that declares a law unconstitutional after 158 years. Wow. Isn't it just so great? Oh, wait. It took them 158 years to figure out that this law was unconstitutional?
A terribly egregious law. It took them 158
the system doesn't
years.
serve you, ladies and gentlemen. It serves the system.
So what do we got? Like another 100 years to go before the federal government actually legalizes cannabis then?
I guess so. That and 150 years or so, or maybe shorter, to allow you to grow your own mushrooms.
Yep. But hey, guess what? I didn't wait for government to say it was okay for me to smoke cannabis. I just went ahead and did it. And I'm not really a drinker, but if I wanted to distill some moonshine in my basement, I would just do it. I wouldn't ask if it was okay.
That's the wonderful thing about being around people who don't ask for permission to do something from a group of strangers calling themselves government.
What is wrong with everybody else that they are asking permission? Why would you even do such a thing?
I think we've gotten so used to the idea that, we got to be a nation of laws and we got to have the government, tell us what's good and what's bad for us so then we can ask their permission.
Yeah, back to that learned helplessness thing. We've got a caller on the line from West Virginia. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
It's because you can't do anything you want on co-owned property like an HOA.
You get around. You're in West Virginia today, huh?
And guess what, Stu? A college degree is verified with exams. If you self-teach yourself on YouTube, you'll end up like a sovereign citizen, like Jay Noon, or worse. You'll learn Austrian economics.
You could do a lot worse than ending up like Jay Noon. You could end up like Skeeter, an absolute bag of human trash.
You could be like Ludwig von Mises.
At least he's a thinker.
No.
Unlike Skeeter, who just sits in his mom's
All right,
basement.
what kind of nonsense do you want to talk about tonight, Skeeter? I don't know. I don't have a lot of patience today, so get to the point and don't be a jerk.
Well, I got a couple points. College is actually pretty fair. When you go into basic economics, they actually show you like all the views, the valid views.
Yeah, they spend a week on Austrian economics, and then they show you everything else for the rest of the time.
But good news.
Well, they might if you go to a decent school.
No, they teach you everything. They teach you the money multipliers. They see how the money's. They even show like.
Yes, they show you all. They show you all the crooked ways that the bankers are stealing from average people. Yes, they show you all of that. Don't I?
News, guys.
Wait, how am I inaccurate?
Do you have a degree?
I do, actually.
Good news, guys. Good news, guys. The government lowered the filing fee for renunciation from $23.50 to $4.50.
They charge you to renounce?
And you know what else they lowered by 81%? Your excuse for not leaving.
I didn't even know they charged, for one. And I would never ask whether they did or not. I would just leave.
There's an administrating filing fee. No, but you want to avoid taxation, though. The point is you don't have to pay income taxes if you don't use any of the U.S.'s resources. Like own a business or use any of the roads or take advantage of the national
U.S. and what is its resources?
It is the citizens, just like in an HOA.
It's not.
Like homeowners
it's D.C.
in an HOA.
District of Columbia.
Oh my God, that's another.
That's how it's defined in Black's Law Dictionary.
No, it isn't.
Look it up.
No, this is what sovereign
Get yourself a coffee.
Do, right?
Read something.
No, yeah, I got it. I got the tax code in front of me. Are you talking about the phrase where it defines the United States?
Yes.
Yeah. What does it say? It says the United States includes Washington, D.C., right? That's what it says. Did you look up includes in the Black's Law Dictionary? It says includes means not an exhaustive list. It means including but not limited to. Now, includes only means includes and limited to, and equates to equates is an equation, basically a definition. Now, the tax code says the United States includes Washington, D.C. It's a clarifying statement. It's another trick sovereign citizens use. They look for lists, incomplete lists. They call it complete and fool gullible hippies, right? This is not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the dangers of being lazy, because laziness is a problem, Stu.
It can be.
Even be a bigger problem. It can. What? I thought you were.
It can be. It's not inherently a problem in and of itself. It can lead to problems. It's like drunk driving.
Yeah, no.
You can drive drunk as hell.
Yeah.
And guess what? You're not committing a crime. As soon as you smash into somebody else's property, you've committed a crime.
How do I go in front of your house and like start shooting guns randomly? So they don't kill anybody. It's not a crime, right? Right, Stu?
Well, yeah, let's see. I don't know. Let's see how. Yeah, let's try that. See how long it lasts.
Look.
Go ahead.
There's things called probability. There's things
Your
called
move, Skeeter.
expectations, right?
Find out how smart that is.
Say what?
Go ahead. Find out how smart
I can
that
hear
is.
you, but-
Let's see how long it lasts.
Yeah, I'll come with my gang buddies from Southern California. I'm in Compton.
Okay.
How do you deal with a gang of Mexicans? Huh? Shooting around guns. Buff Mexicans from prison. What are you going to do? You think Jay News is going to help you? You think Richie Rich is going to come down on a scooter? But this is now I want to talk about laziness, right? The dangers of laziness, right? The dangers of laziness come with opportunity costs. Lazy people can be even more dangerous than destructive people, right? When people own things or take up resources and do nothing with them, that can actually cause more harm to society. What do you mean?
I'm sure you're taking up a lot of our time. You're taking up our resources time. Being an idiot.
No,
and not doing much with it.
I'm the only window to truth on this.
What are you, Jesus now?
Wow, the delusion.
This is just delusion.
Yes, it is.
You guys are
totally
deluded.
Very deluded.
Guess what else they found Guess what else the Supreme Court found unconstitutional? Unilateral secession.
Yeah, I'm waiting for him to hear whether or not your laugh is legal.
I'm talking about laziness, right? So if you had one guy who, let's say, he either does nothing or destroys capital worth, let's say, $1, versus a lazy person who takes up resources, staying alive.
No, see, that's where you didn't listen to me.
Could have been used.
Right. If they're being a burden on other people, that's a problem. That's not.
No, this burden is in the form of opportunity cost.
Oh,
like
shut up, man. This is retarded.
You're not listening to me. Like
you're saying that a person has to go out and make you a sandwich because they have free time.
What?
You're saying a person has to do something that satisfies what you consider to be productive.
No, I'm talking about when you own something. Let's say like you're the first homesteader with land. You have the obligation to hand it over to someone who can utilize it better, whether you like it or not.
I actually don't have that obligation.
Yes, you do. And the market.
I can burn down the home and let it be a forest or a desert.
Well, you're only allowed to burn things as long as no one's able to stop you, right? And that depends upon how profitable it is to stop you from doing it. You see, Stu, there is one natural law of the universe. It's evolution and productivity and profit, right? That's the universal law. It's
the universe cares nothing for these things.
That pays for itself. Yes, it does.
The universe cares about money?
Okay. Yes, it does. It chooses the perfect. It evolves the perfect money.
It never even conceptualized it. Humans did that.
No, humans. Gold was always around. Gold,
but it wasn't always money.
People knew
it was just a thing.
People knew what they were doing when they're trading around gold.
It was just pretty dirt, man.
As a unit of account. What's that?
It was just pretty dirt for most of human history.
Oh, but it has objective properties that give it value because value is objective, right?
Not until you learn how to use it.
No, but it's just reputation. Gold's a poor substitute for information and reputation,
dude.
Right? Evolution will always choose money because you have to know how do you know how to treat people, right? You don't treat people badly because they're a jerk. You put up with people being a jerk as long as they're productive, right? Profit tells you this, right? You put up with your dumb boss, right? For you, I don't know. You probably are a hard manual labor guy. You don't seem like a smart guy to me, right, Stu? Am I right? Right, so you have to put up with your foreman or something. I don't know. You probably do some. Am I right or wrong? What do you do? You sell drugs? Oh, guess what? I looked up Section 61 of the IRS code. It defines gross income as whatever source derived. Did Ian follow that?
Whatever source derived. That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. Whatever source derived, compensation, like including, but not limited to.
So tapping a spring is income?
Services, including fees, commissions, fringe benefits, and similar items. maybe compensation and fees fits selling Bitcoin for profit.
Yeah,
Am I right?
But what is being derived?
Yeah, whatever sort of drive. Anything where you get a capital gain.
The air that goes into my lungs?
If you work and make money, if you sell, you make money, huh?
The air that goes into my lungs, for example?
No, gains. Code defines gross income as income from whatever source derived, whether you work for it or you get it through capital gains, like selling Bitcoin for a profit.
Oh, well, that's all well and good, but the fact that they had to make it such a confusing language just shows that they're hiding something and not really playing on a fair level.
How is that confusing? That seems pretty comprehensive to me.
Well, no, it's not, because then you have to ask it how it defines income.
Oh my God! No. It gave a partial list. It just gave a partial list to get you an idea, right?
So use your imagination. So yeah, maybe the air that I'm breathing into my lungs does apply.
Whatever source derived, right? Any gains, right?
Are you?
And the tax code goes into.
Hey, where'd you get your degree, by the way? Did you go to Cornell?
UC Berkeley. The best private institution government in California.
Yeah, I bet you went to Cornell.
Yours? Berkeley.
No, I would never pay for such trash. Why would I go to college?
I didn't have to pay.
Oh.
Hell, I let the government do it. It's the best acceleration strategy ever.
Nice job, Parasite. I've had enough of that.
He's really annoying.
No,
I wonder
thanks
if he
for the call,
realizes
jerk.
that his laugh was really annoying and really. He doesn't sound like an intelligent guy to me. He just sounds like a jerk and someone who's wasting a lot of resources. And he comes on the show and says, "Oh, you gotta be profitable." When he's not profitable himself.
He's got some level of comprehension and intelligence. He's just trash. That's all it is. Like I don't know what his deal is exactly. I suspect he's on the payroll of one government agency or another, and his primary objective is to be a distraction on this show.
Maybe that's why he's here.
You know,
like a mosquito. We gotta swat the mosquito away.
Yeah, that's only suspected, but who knows? I mean, the guy makes no sense, and he's obviously got a character act that he puts on every time he calls, and always calls in from spoofed phone numbers, and there's just a lot of weird stuff about the guy. He admits he doesn't love himself, doesn't even feel capable of love.
Yep.
Can't imagine what kind of a horrible human feels that way.
I can't imagine that either.
Anyway, let's go to Tom in New Hampshire. Tom, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Well, on Thursday, out in Placerville, California, the cops went to serve an eviction notice, and one of them got killed. Seems the guy fought back about that. To analyze the situation, I express my thoughts, my analysis of the cause and effects here. You see, the landlord owns the building, and the guy was only there under a contractual right and did not honor the contract, so the landlord had a right to his own building, and the laws actually give the tenant, some tenant protection laws, some leeway, regardless of what contract it says. So it really wasn't the landlord to be blamed, and the cops are not to be blamed for serving the eviction notice, but a deeper analysis of the situation arises here. And I want to share one point in word power here. Okay, liberty is an unalienable right. Okay, and unalienable rights by definition preempt the rule of law. The Declaration of Independence expresses the unalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's not a legal document, but unalienable rights are not the product of legal documents. But this is a hybrid word construction, okay? Because he was denied not the benefit of liberty, because liberty is the right of the property owner to build what they want to, zoning restrictions or no zoning restrictions, and that wasn't the problem. It's not But the preamble to the United States Constitution speaks of securing the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Now, if you have liberty is an unalienable right, one part of that right is the right to enjoy the blessings of liberty. And the blessings of liberty would include housing at free market prices. And the blessings of liberty would include the job opportunities, and that would, but for the zoning restrictions, would exist. Okay, so here you have this guy who's a victim of zoning restrictions, because they price people out of the housing market. People who absolutely can't afford to move into a town can't vote in that town, but the state legislature can pass laws saying that no city or town shall impose any zoning restrictions. And but most people vote for candidates who support zoning. Okay, they didn't pull the trigger, but they pulled the lever. Now, first of all, it's important to establish that the police forces of a hostile domestic government are the enemy as much as the armed forces of a hostile foreign government. They were denying to that tenant, he didn't have a right to live in that apartment, but he had an unalienable right to enjoy the blessings of liberty, which is housing at fair market prices. Because in a free country, there would be no zoning restrictions, and abolishing zoning would immediately produce a glut of new housing. And I discussed one objection that is very common, which is that people would lose property value. Some people's homes would go down in value if they weren't artificially inflated through zoning restrictions. And I say, well, just like when slaves were emancipated, some people lost everything. Too bad. And then basically I go on, I shared this message with the local newspaper and on the Facebook page of the Sheriff's Department.
Tom, we can hold you over if you like. We're coming up against it. Do you agree with what Tom's saying? Is this zoning restriction messing up our ability to have affordable housing? Give us a call. It's Free Talk Live.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Tired of the ever-inflating US dollar? You can live your life on Dash instead with some handy websites. BitRefill.com has been accepting Dash for years and has a ton of big-name retailers and brands including grocers, gas stations, phone refills, Amazon, and even prepaid MasterCards. Plus, many of their gift cards are available at a discount. But what about paying your bills? Spritz.finance can do that, and they can send dollars to your bank account in case you still need those for some reason. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at Dash.org. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit Dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org. From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. US President Donald Trump says the US military will remain in the Middle East to ensure that Iran opens the Strait of Hormuz. In a social media post, Mr. Trump detailed America's non-negotiables ahead of talks with Iran. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
Donald Trump is making it clear that he wants what he wants and he's prepared to use the US military to get it. He says that all US ships, aircraft and military personnel with additional ammunition and weaponry will remain in place in and around Iran. That's until both sides reach what he's calling a real agreement. And he flags two sticking points, red lines for the US. That Iran must have no nuclear weapons and that the Strait of Hormuz must be open and safe. The US president sticking to those positions and making it clear he will not concede on those points. He said if those don't happen, then the shooting starts. More threats that are showing the cracks in diplomacy ahead of planned talks between the US and Iran in Pakistan. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
European leaders voiced alarm this week over the situation in Lebanon and its impact on the fragile US-Iran truce. The Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's contempt for life and international law was intolerable. Ross Cullen reports.
The French Foreign Ministry said the strikes by the IDF were, quote, all the more unacceptable as they jeopardise the temporary ceasefire between the United States and Iran. The IDF said it was targeting Hezbollah sites in Lebanon, but Israeli forces reportedly detained a Spanish UN peacekeeper and fired warning shots at an Italian convoy. Madrid and Rome demanded answers from the Israeli government, with the Italian foreign minister warning of a second Gaza. EU officials also warned that high prices and potential shortages of jet fuel could last into the summer.
Meanwhile, NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte said that member countries are doing everything US President Donald Trump had requested to strengthen the military alliance, even if some were initially a bit slow to provide support to America and its war with Iran. Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
The two men met at the White House on Wednesday amid tensions within the alliance over the Iran war. The US president has threatened to withdraw from the transatlantic security alliance in recent weeks. He argues that European allies haven't provided enough support for the US war in Iran while relying on US security guarantees. The NATO chief acknowledged that some allies were a bit slow to support the US. He noted they were also a bit surprised given President Trump opted not to inform them before starting the war. But he argued that today allies are providing a massive amount of support, saying they've heard and are responding to President Trump's requests.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio you control. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. If you got something you want to talk about, just punch that number in and we'll have a conversation with you about it. ForkFest 2026 has had multiple changes. Please pay attention as this info may be new to you. June 22nd through 29th at the Northern Waters Outfitters Campground in Errol, New Hampshire. The owner has offered to host 100 campers at his campground, which is being closed just for ForkFest. Anyone else who'd like to stay in the surrounding area may come for a day pass for free. The only real restriction he's given us for this event is no nudism, which I think we can deal with after the crazy restrictions Rogers started imposing. ForkFest.party for more info, and ForkFest2026@gmail.com if you'd like to sign up as one of the 100 campers that will fit. The charge for camping at the Northern Waters Outfitters is only $10 per person per night. I think that's a pretty fair deal. It should be a good time. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Riley O'Bill.
We were talking with Tom, so let's bring Tom back. Tom, you were talking about the zoning coercion.
Yeah, the zoning coercion, the indirect victims are the ones who are being denied their unalienable right to the blessings of liberty, not necessarily liberty itself, but the blessings of liberty.
This was the whole point of the deal. Anyway, I read the the Declaration of Independence, which was that was where they laid out what the gripe was and why they were splitting off from the king. And they said the deal was that government's supposed to be there to protect the rights of the individual, to protect their pursuit of life, liberty, and if they had their way, they would have said property, but they settled on pursuit of happiness.
That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Yeah, that's the function of government.
That's right.
These rights.
And they don't do that at all.
Well, they're not doing that. They're maliciously attacking. They're protecting somebody's imaginary right to protect the rural character of the community when, in fact, the person only owns his or her yard.
Yeah, they're protecting the wrongs of the bankers rather than the rights of its citizenry.
And I went on to address a few other things, but notice that I was bringing up slavery because it's better, in my opinion, to bring up slavery when you're comparing it against another injustice than the Holocaust in Hitler. And, in Maryland, the slaves were emancipated with a referendum with ballots. Meanwhile, in Virginia, the enslaved persons were being emancipated by using bullets. Whatever works. Liberty and justice must prevail. They can take their democracy and shove it because one vote is useless. And if the majority want to govern, then they have to refrain from voting wrong. Simply, and that's a good example because it's almost universally accepted that slavery is unjust. And it's a good example where just because people voted for it doesn't give them the right to keep slaves. Holding wrong opinions does not entitle anybody to keep slaves. The opinions can be right or wrong, as with the slavery issue.
That's exactly right. Just because a bunch of people got together and voted that they want this thing that they never had a right to, doesn't make it, within their rights magically.
Now, my grandmother, I mentioned in some editions of this message that I sent, she told me that where she lived, the crime rate went up when black folks moved in. And I was disgusted to hear her say such a thing, but she insisted it was true. Maybe it is. In any case, whenever the crime rate spikes for any reason, those people are going to need cops. So they better not vote wrong and have cops get killed enforcing unjust laws, because that's not a problem to the person who is ready to make the supreme sacrifice fighting back against the police forces of a hostile domestic government. So, it's something for them to...
Well, there's a fine line there. If you're fighting back against somebody who's threatening your life, that them having a badge doesn't make it okay for them to threaten your life.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's not. I don't know. It's not okay necessarily, in my opinion, to shoot the low-level thug because you're mad at what his boss told him, what his boss is doing or whatever.
Well, even Donald Trump is only babbling and scribbling. He tells his staff to cook up a document and he scribbles an autograph on it. Okay. He's not stopping people from moving into the United States. The Border Patrol goons are doing that, and the Customs and Border Protection goons, as if you need to protect the borders. What would happen to the border if they stopped protecting it? It would still be right there, those monuments. I mean, maybe somebody would vandalize a monument, but you don't need thousands and thousands of goons to stop somebody from vandalizing a border monument. But they call it Customs and Border Protection. And Immigration and Customs Enforcement goons, they're the ones that are, police forces of a hostile domestic government. And then they sign up, and then they whine like crybabies when they get wounded in action. On 12 April of 2012, the Green Line, New Hampshire police chief chose to get himself gunned down, and 4 other cops chose to get themselves shot and wounded in a drug raid. And, if any of those 4 cops happen to be listening right now, hey, it serves you right, punk. You maliciously joined the police forces of a hostile domestic government. You should have waited until after the government legalizes drugs, abolishes public school and school taxes, eliminates all zoning restrictions, and opens the borders. School taxes, by the way, are a major issue out this way. I don't know about in California where that happened, but school taxes, they say, every child has a right to an education at somebody else's expense, which is garbage. And then they tell the local bureaucrats to impose zoning restrictions to prevent more families from moving into the town. And I mean, if families can't afford to educate their children, how in the world are they supposed to afford not only the taxes to pay for that education, for a bureaucracy to provide the education, but also how are they supposed to afford a great big yard, $1 million house when you add the mortgage interest, just so the town can tax it? And speaking of public schools, which is a major motivation for imposing blatantly unjust zoning restrictions, when was the last time you had to factor a polynomial? When was the last time you needed to do arithmetic with imaginary numbers?
Well, all that stuff could be learned in, I don't know, let's call it 9 months by the average, normal mental capacity student. You could give them 9 months so they could learn everything they needed to for that set of grade school years. So in elementary school, it could be done in 9 months. Junior high, 9 more months. High school, 9 more months. And you've learned all the things that they took 15,000 hours to cram into your brain because it wasn't about that anyways.
They're forcing Johnny to go to public school. They throw him into a classroom full of obnoxious bullies. They prey on him mercilessly, and then they whine like crybabies. They act totally stunned when Johnny comes back there and shoots the place up. The Secret Service even issued a report about mass shootings in schools saying, yes, that's what's going on. These bullies are picking on these people, and the people finally say enough is enough. And you can't really count on that oppressed victim to differentiate and be careful not to shoot any innocent people that don't deserve it.
Well, it's a bully culture. I don't know why anybody's surprised that that's what goes on. Like, it's a bully culture perpetuated by the staff and by the other students. It's where the incentive is placed, is for everybody to figure out where they fit in the pecking order of bullies. Yeah,
and it's a bullying. It's promoted by the grown-ups and by the government. I mean, look at, the United States can pick on Iran and say, you can't have nuclear weapons, but do they go and attack China? Oh, no, because China could kick the U.S., do a lot of damage to the United States in retaliation, and Iran is not as equipped to retaliate. So it's a bully culture that they're promoting by example.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for the call today, Tom. It's hard, I'm not a big go and shoot cops kind of guy. Cops are immoral. They're all cops, ACAB and all of that. So if you don't like that, too bad. Quit your job. It's immoral. Quit doing it. You can. So I know there's officer discretion, right? But you're not so high and mighty. You're not so well enlightened.
A lot of them don't use the discretion.
Which laws to prosecute and which ones not to.
Yeah, a lot of them don't use their discretion to say, this guy has like an ounce of weed. I'm just going to let it go. It's not like he's harming anybody. He just has a plant. He's smoking it in a park. He's not harming anybody.
Yeah, and some of them will use their discretion and let that guy go, but they won't turn an eye to somebody with cocaine, or some of them will, but they won't turn an eye to somebody with crystal meth, or, you know what I mean? And so it's not like there's any logic to this. It's just purely emotional, animalistic reactions, and that's all that you are as a badge-wearing law enforcer. All you are is a dog to those self-anointed elites that boss you around. You're one of their dogs, and that's how they refer to you, and that's how they think of you. And you're not acting any better than that. So have some dignity. Quit your job. Start doing something productive in the world. And these guys that got shot were on a drug raid. It's really hard to feel bad for them. I don't know what you think about that, Riley.
I don't know. I find it hard to have any sympathy for people raiding other people's property over chemicals and plants.
Mm-hmm. It's not like those guys were, doing drugs into Riley's body. They were doing drugs into their own body.
They're not forcing me to take any.
And perhaps they were selling them to other people that wanted to do drugs into their own bodies. But guess what? It's their own body, and they're perfectly within their rights to do that. So for you to try to stop them makes you kind of an immoral human bag of trash. So stop doing it.
You're on a roll tonight, Stu. I love it.
Well, I'm getting kind of fed up with people, and this, this extends to a lot of people within the freedom community or the liberty movement or whatever as well. If you think that just because just because you like guns, or just because you want lower taxes, or just because whatever your pet issue is, if you don't have a mental concept that what we're trying to eradicate here is still human slavery, right? Maybe not in the shadow form. Maybe it's gone a little more covert than it used to be, but it's still human slavery, and that's what we're trying to end. If you haven't come to terms with that, and if you think that, we can just have a limited amount of government, you're still justifying human slavery, and you're still part of the problem. Riley brought in a story that kind of got me excited. This is from Stars and Stripes.
Oh, man.
A news source I've never heard of.
A reputable news source, for sure.
Okay, Riley says they're reputable. Automatic registration for military draft to be implemented by December. So
wow, slavery already.
Human slavery.
Yes. Now, this is human slavery.
And this is not even that covert. Like, this is... Impressment of the sailors was one of the biggest problems that America had with what Great Britain was doing when they decided to break with them. That's no different than a draft. That's the exact same thing.
It's not any different than a draft.
In fact, a draft is probably more brutal. Whereas, impressment onto a British ship, if you did your job well and stuff, you probably had a chance at getting paid and being a welcome member of the new crew. At least you were going to keep your life. If you get drafted right now as a grunt in America's army, you're going to be sacrificed. You're going to be absolutely...
You're going to be sacrificed for our freedoms. Oh, wait.
You're going to be sacrificed for no good reason. You're going to be...
Oh, but our freedoms are supposed to be the greatest reason ever, Stu. Don't you want them to make sacrifices for our freedoms?
Sacrifices for our freedoms.
I say that tongue in cheek.
But nobody in the U.S. military is doing that. At least not by extension of being in the military. They may have some other project in which they're doing that, but nobody in the military at any point in America, in any American war, has ever died for your freedom. Not in any of the wars. And that's the truth. If you don't like it, that's too bad.
Our freedoms haven't gotten any better in the last 20 years as we fought in the Middle East than they have been before that.
No, in fact, the empire tactics just come home to roost. And so, by that metric, we've gotten quite a bit less free, I'd say. Well, let's see what this article has to say about it. I wonder if it's in support of this idea.
Let's find out.
Automatic registration of men potentially eligible for the military draft will take effect by December, according to the government agency that maintains a database of who could be called up to serve in a crisis. A proposed rule for the Selective Service System was submitted to the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs on March 30th as part of the process of implementing the change. Most males between the ages of 18 and 25 are required to register with the Selective Service in the event that Congress and the President authorize conscription in response to a national emergency. So those words put together in that form lead you to believe something totally different than what's going on.
Yeah.
Let me translate this for you. Most of the young men between the ages of 18 and 25, these are your brothers, sons, maybe in some cases even fathers. They're going to be sent. They're going to be sent to die in the dirt because a banker has some agenda.
We all know that bankers have a lot of agendas that they want to fulfill, and a lot of them are done by bombs and guns.
Mm-hmm. The new rule, mandated by defense policy legislation passed by Congress last year, will register men automatically rather than require them to register themselves within 30 days of their 18th birthdays. Late registration is allowed until a man reaches his 26th birthday. Failure to register is considered a crime and can lead to disqualification from student loans, most federal jobs, and U.S. citizenship for immigrants. Let's see here. Don't register, And don't get a student loan. Don't get a federal job regardless what your situation. If you have one now, quit it, you parasitical piece of garbage. Quit your federal job. I don't care what it is. If you think you're doing some good in the world, you're not. Stop. And U.S. citizenship for immigrants. I don't know. The place you move from might be pretty bad, so America might be an improvement, but most likely you were fed fairy tales about what goes on here. So I'm very sorry that once you realize the actual state of America is not freedom. Lawmakers who championed automatic registration said it will cut government red tape and allow the agency, which spends millions of dollars reminding eligible men that registration is required by law, to save taxpayer money.
Here's a simpler solution. End this whole concept of draft entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Conscription is immoral. It's slavery.
I thought we weren't in... I thought there wasn't even supposed to be a war. Trump said, if you elect that other person, then they'll go to war with Iran because they're, weak and ineffective, is what he said.
Yep, and now Trump is going to war with Iran because he's, I guess, weak and ineffective?
I guess that must mean he's weak and ineffective.
I guess so.
Either that or he's just, he says you're tired of winning and he's bored of peace. The Selective Service system said the change will result in a streamlined registration process and corresponding workforce realignment, allowing the agency to transfer responsibility from individual men by pulling data from existing databases. Registration rates for the draft have declined in recent years but remain high, according to the agency's most recent report to Congress. In 2024, 81% of eligible men registered. What the heck is wrong with you? A slight decrease from the 84% of men who registered in 2023. Why? Why are you doing this? I know they tell you it's a crime, but
there's no victim here, so it can't or shouldn't be a crime.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Point to the victim, and then once you can identify the victim, then go and sign up to do immoral things on behalf of a government that absolutely does not care about you. The strong compliance rate is driven by laws in 46 states and territories that automatically register men for the Selective Service when they obtain a driver's license, learner's permit, or state identification card, according to the agency. Women remain ineligible for the draft despite repeated legislative efforts to expand the registration requirement. In 2020, a commission appointed by Congress said, including women who became eligible for all combat jobs in 2016 would be a necessary and fair step. Really? So, like, having women dead in the dirt for no good reason is, what do they say? Necessary and fair. Interesting. Is that kind of like the 500,000 dead Iraqis was worth it, according to whatever creepy lady said that?
I guess so.
I forgot her name right now. Lawmakers have been able to attach provisions adding women to the draft to various versions of annual defense policy bills in recent years, but the measures have all been scrapped before being put to a final vote. The U.S. last activated the draft in 1973 near the end of the Vietnam War and has since relied on all volunteer force. Former President Jimmy Carter reinstated the Selective Service registration requirement for men in 1980. End of article.
You know, there are a lot of people who will listen to this article or listen to us say that, you know, draft is conscription or conscription is slavery and think, well, it would do boys good to provide service. Okay. They don't need to be enslaved to provide service, though. They can learn them from you as a parent. They can learn them from, I don't know, maybe their church can teach them how to serve other people through various means. Maybe that would be better than enslaving people to a criminal enterprise calling itself government.
Yep, maybe a lot of things would be better than enslaving humans, especially young men who, you know, most, and I would say most, above 90%, kind of most, young men between the ages of, what they say, 18 and 26, cannot figure out the concept. They can't figure out that they've been lied to about the honor of the U.S. military and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why they get you then, because you're not cognitively capable of figuring this out yet. And you still think that, as a lot of boys do, that there's, wartime glory to be had and all of this, but that's not the way it works. I know a guy personally who signed up to, participate in military stuff and found himself in Afghanistan guarding poppy fields and was very upset about it. Because he realized at that point that there was nothing honorable going on there, and the American military was being used to protect international drug trade, heroin, fentanyl, stuff that comes from the poppy plant in Afghanistan, which production ramped up as soon as America went in there, and then as soon as they left, it fell steeply off. So, I don't know, correlation, causation, probably causation. Give us a call. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. Try to convince me that there's ever been a justified war in American history. I will even take umbrage against the Revolutionary War. Give us a call. Let me know how I'm wrong. This is Free Talk Live.
The military's newly developed unmanned Pentagon spokes drone completed its first live mission today, successfully carrying out a press conference on the war in Iraq. The Mobile Press Engagement Unit is being hailed by Pentagon officials as a revolutionary advancement in protecting military personnel.
The spokes drone proved effective at neutralizing reporters' questions about 85% of the time.
Many officials say the unit has the potential to save countless careers. Using a high-tech gimbal camera and microphone system, the unit tracks reporters' movements and audio output, then analyzes the data to assess the threat level.
It formulates and deploys an effectively vague response.
We have taken away a number of the enemy sanctuaries and gained initiatives in the areas. Eileen.
Military technology experts see the unit as adaptable to a wide variety of treacherous interview scenarios. They estimated it could even withstand situations too hostile for any human spokesman to bear, such as anti-war documentary interviews.
This is the Onion News Network.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. US President Donald Trump says the US military will remain in the Middle East to ensure that Iran opens the Strait of Hormuz. In a social media post, Mr. Trump detailed America's non-negotiables ahead of talks with Iran that are taking place in Pakistan. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
Donald Trump is making it clear that he wants what he wants and he's prepared to use the US military to get it. He says that all US ships, aircraft and military personnel with additional ammunition and weaponry will remain in place in and around Iran. That's until both sides reach what he's calling a real agreement. And he flags 2 sticking points, red lines for the US. That Iran must have no nuclear weapons and that the Strait of Hormuz must be open and safe. The US president sticking to those positions and making it clear he will not concede on those points. He said if those don't happen, then the shooting starts. More threats that are showing the cracks in diplomacy ahead of planned talks between the US and Iran in Pakistan. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
European leaders voiced alarm this week over the situation in Lebanon and its impact on the fragile US-Iran truce. The Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's contempt for life and international law was intolerable. Ross Cullen reports.
The French Foreign Ministry said the strikes by the IDF were, quote, all the more unacceptable as they jeopardise the temporary ceasefire between the United States and Iran. The IDF said it was targeting Hezbollah sites in Lebanon, but Israeli forces reportedly detained a Spanish UN peacekeeper and fired warning shots at an Italian convoy. Madrid and Rome demanded answers from the Israeli government, with the Italian foreign minister warning of a second Gaza. EU officials also warned that high prices and potential shortages of jet fuel could last into the summer.
Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that member countries are doing everything US President Donald Trump had requested to strengthen the military alliance, even if some were initially a bit slow to provide support to America and its war with Iran. Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
The two men met at the White House on Wednesday amid tensions within the alliance over the Iran war. The US president has threatened to withdraw from the transatlantic security alliance in recent weeks. He argues that European allies haven't provided enough support for the US war in Iran while relying on US security guarantees. The NATO chief acknowledged that some allies were a bit slow to support the US. He noted they were also a bit surprised, given President Trump opted not to inform them before starting the war. But he argued that today allies are providing a massive amount of support, saying they've heard and are responding to President Trump's requests. On Thursday morning, Mr. Trump posted on social media that NATO was very disappointing.
The fertility rate in the US hit another record low last year. Fresh federal data shows that the number of births fell by 1% to just over 3.6 million. Tony Waterman has more.
The U.S. fertility rate has been in decline since 2007. Nearly 23% fewer babies are born now than then. Teenage pregnancies have seen the sharpest declines and are now sitting at record lows. The data shows that fertility rates among women in their 30s and 40s are actually increasing, but it's not enough to offset a slowdown among younger women. Experts say the high cost of childcare, housing, and a desire by women to have careers are among the many reasons why the fertility rate continues to fall. Tony Waterman, Washington.
And finally, Moscow announced a short-term Easter truce with Ukraine for the weekend. Kiev agreed to respond in kind if Russia indeed observes the proposed ceasefire. The Ukrainian leader also announced that preparations are underway for a new round of settlement talks with Russia, expected in the near future. Daria Bondarchuk has more from Moscow.
The two-day ceasefire announced by Russian President Vladimir Putin is scheduled to begin at 4 p.m. local time on Saturday, April 11, and would last until the end of Sunday, the 12th of April. Moscow said it has seen Kiev's statements that it's ready to support the truce and expects Ukraine to follow Russia's lead. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky promised to act accordingly in case Moscow too refrains from new strikes. He also said that preparations for a new round of settlement talks with Russia and the United States are underway. Negotiations could take place in the form of a trilateral meeting or a round of shuttle diplomacy, with Moscow and Kyiv talking to the American side separately. Daria Bondarchuk, Moscow.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
According to members of the 1998 University of Virginia graduating class, Governor Jim Gilmore's commencement speech to them continues to be a deep well of wisdom and guidance even 15 years after it was delivered. Classmates confirmed that while friends at other universities heard from such figures as Jimmy Carter, Kurt Vonnegut, and the Dalai Lama, the inspirational words of Virginia's 68th governor continues to profoundly inform their lives and actions.
Whenever I face a dark moment in my life, I just think back to Governor Gilmore's speech, and it almost instantly puts things back into perspective. It's like he said, go forward and be successful and achieve your hopes and dreams and aspirations. All I can say is I hope I lived up to that incredible lesson.
And in local news, a 5-year-old figures he has about a year left of peeing at urinals with his pants all the way down.
In other news, using the amount of toothpaste shown in commercials is a disgusting experience. A grizzled proofreader has seen it written both ways, and a cackling Warren Buffett burns his entire fortune in front of the nation.
This is the Onion News Network.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. It's talk radio you control. Give us a call. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever is on your mind. I'd like to thank Alex for being an amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. That means that Alex went to amps.freetalklive.com and signed up to support the show. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. Thanks again to Alex and everyone who supports us. Again, that's amps.freetalklive.com if you'd like to check out the perks and benefits of becoming an amplifier. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Riley O'Bill. I don't think that's the Alex Jones, though. I think it's just a different Alex.
Yeah, you don't think it's Mr. Nutraceutical?
No.
We've got the documents.
I don't think we're that fortunate or unfortunate to be supported by Alex Jones. He's been on the show before.
Really?
Yeah, years and years ago.
Must have missed that one.
Yeah, it's like 2011, 2012, somewhere around there.
Oh, okay, that was before I found out about the show.
Yeah.
That's why I missed it.
Yep.
Well, we're going to go to the phones. Tom, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hey, how's it going? So you're asking which war we should be involved in, but you're not privy to all the intel. That's the thing. The Israelis got a lot of intel on Iran, and we tapped into their communications.
Okay, hold on. Let's address this. The intel. Are you talking about the intel where Netanyahu's been saying just 2 weeks and Iran could have nuclear weapons? And he's been saying this for, I don't know, years. Is that what we're talking about? Go ahead.
Well, maybe, partially. But I'm saying that Trump said that they've been tapping into their internal communications. You're not privy to that information.
I think I would do that too if I had a neighbor acting that way.
So if you had a neighbor on meth with a gun and he's pointing it at you periodically, you wouldn't call somebody? You wouldn't do anything about it?
Yeah, I'd do something about it. Israel's acting like that, and somebody ought to do something about it.
Well, okay. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the call.
Look, I remember in 2006, I actually was doing college radio, 2006, 2007, and I interviewed a guy by the name of Jerome Corsi, who wrote a book called Atomic Iran, and he was, while I was interviewing him, claiming that we're going to have a war with Iran this summer, and it was in April, in March or April when I had the interview. He's claiming we're going to have a war with Iran this summer in 2006, 2007, and I was like, no. I don't know if I believe him anymore.
Yeah.
Because these people have been claiming the same thing, that Iran's going to have a nuke within a certain amount of time. We got to go stop them. It has been 20 years since that interview.
Yeah.
And only now.
And they've never once been caught with uranium enriched past whatever the threshold was that they were told to stop at. I think somewhere around 60%. And the stockpile amounts have never exceeded the weight limit that they were allowed to have.
Right, and only now, 20 years after 2007, or 19 years after 2007, 20 years after 2006, are we actually going to war with Iran? It's insane. We're being lied to, and I don't think it's by the people who are questioning the war with Iran. I think it's by the people who are actually telling us that we need to go to war with Iran because they'll get a nuke. Iran is less of a threat to me than the United States federal government.
Mm-hmm. And if you pay attention at all, you'll know certainly somebody's lying. And heavens knows it couldn't be the American government because they have a spotless record of being totally honest all the time.
Exactly. So spotless. So spotless.
So spotless, in fact, that if I hear them say something, I go ahead and assume the opposite, and I'm right more than half the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, Nice try, Tom. Anybody else is welcome to try and convince me that any war has been justified. Current one through Revolutionary War against Great Britain. Any of them. Pick one. Try to convince me it's justified. I might be wrong. I even like finding out that I was wrong about a thing, because then tomorrow I'm smarter. So I will admit it if you can show me how I'm wrong. But my current position is that no war in American history has been justified, hands down. They've all been a waste of human life and completely unjustified. Riley brought this story in from Activist Post.
An actual reputable news source.
Yeah, we like Activist Post.
We do.
This one's from Caitlin Johnstone. Anti-imperialists want to improve the world. Liberals just want to feel good about themselves.
Pretty hard-hitting. Right out the gate.
Yeah. Ultimately, what separates the anti-imperialist left from mainstream liberal humanitarians is whether you're in it for humanity or for yourself. For the liberal, wanting peace and justice is more of an abstraction than a desire to fight the concrete power structures responsible for the lack of peace and justice in our world. If you're a liberal, you oppose the idea of children being killed and starved in the abstract, because thinking of yourself as a moral person allows you to feel nice feelings about yourself. But you have no interest in taking a well-defined stand against the empire, which routinely kills and starves children via genocides, wars of aggression, and siege warfare. That includes, that relatively benign term they use called sanctions. That translates into starving the children of another country. You don't want families living in poverty because it would make you feel like a bad person if you did. But you also don't take a concrete stand against the capitalist system whose very existence depends on the perpetual creation of poverty and scarcity. You kinda sorta want everyone to have happy and plentiful lives, free from fear and tyranny, but you don't want to consider the possibility that your own country is responsible for abusing, terrorizing, and exploiting the global south. Because that would make you feel uncomfortable feelings. It's not about wanting to actually help humanity and fix the world's problems. It's about you and your feelings. Those who oppose the capitalist empire are actually interested in bringing health and harmony to our species. They do not shy away from uncomfortable truths about their own government's abuses, the dystopian nature of Western civilization, or the way their own creature comforts are built on the backs of workers in impoverished countries. Because for them, it's not about feeling nice feelings, it's about creating a better world. The Western anti-imperialist has no problem recognizing that their own society is the main villain on the world stage because they're actually looking at the sources of the abuses and injustices in our world. The liberal humanitarian prefers to see evil only in foreign regimes because being the bad guy doesn't feel nice. The Western anti-imperialist recognize... I just want to interject right here. This is tiptoeing around a trap that I think a lot of people fall into once they realize that America and their and their little mean friend Israel seem to be the biggest bully on the playground, or the world right now. And if you're an American, or I guess an Israeli, you come to this realization, you might think, oh, Iran must be the good guy, or Russia must be the good guy, or China must be the good guy. That's not the case. Those are not good guys either. Just because you say America is an evil empire doesn't mean you would prefer a Chinese oligarchy.
Right. We're simply pointing out that the American empire is evil, just as evil as everyone else in the world.
Mm-hmm. The Western anti-imperialist recognizes that both mainstream political parties in their country promote the warmongering, militarism, capitalist exploitation, and imperialist extraction, which sustain the Western empire, and they oppose the abuses of both parties, whoever happens to be in office. The liberal humanitarian only recognizes wrongdoings in one mainstream political faction while proudly supporting and voting for the other, because this allows them to feel like they're helping. The Western anti-imperialist accepts that standing on the morally correct side means eating loss after loss and receiving disappointment after disappointment, because the push for revolutionary change is swimming directly against the current imposed on every institution in our society. The liberal humanitarian feels nice feelings about their position because their side wins elections half the time, while smugly sneering at those to their left who never got their people into office. The Western anti-imperialist will stare unflinchingly into the carnage from Palestine, Lebanon, and Iran, feeling all the anguish and rage from witnessing those atrocities supported by their own nation. The liberal humanitarian tries to avoid looking at those things because their entire worldview is built upon psychologically compartmentalizing away from reality in order to prioritize their own feelings. Basically, it's the difference between actually being a good person and just wanting to feel like you're a good person. The former is hard, while the latter is easy. Which one do you want to be? Article end.
That's a really good article, I think, because here we face the American empire, which has become the largest empire in the world, much like the British Empire was years and years ago. The saying was, it was said at one point in history that the sun never set on the British Empire. Well, the sun never sets on the American Empire. And that is not a good thing, ladies and gentlemen. That is a dangerous thing, because once we continue our world dominance, which American Empire will, there's going to be a collapse. And it's not going to be pretty.
No, it's not. Any way out of this right now, we're in so deep that any way out is going to be messy. If you wait for the full collapse, if you wait for the impending doom, if you just keep, we can just accelerate this and everything will crash hard and it'll be great. It will not be great. It's going to, there will be a lot of dead people. There will be very little food. And life is going to get really, really hard for a lot of people. People that are used to not that hard of a life.
Yeah.
So, I really like this article. The overarching message of, are you actually doing things that make you a good person, or are you just doing things that make you feel like a good person?
Like, for example, are you advocating for more government programs to take care of the poor instead of going to volunteer at a soup kitchen?
Mm-hmm. Are you just blindly supporting war because it's patriotic, or so you've been told? Or did you actually read up on the causes and justifications for war? Do you do a little history reading about any of this? Because it doesn't take much to find out that that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
And sadly, a lot of people will purposely not do their homework just so they can feel good about their immoral actions. And that's how you get yourself into the messed up kind of world that we have going on right now.
People would rather virtue signal how good they are rather than actually be good people.
Yeah. Well, yep. Anything that keeps them within their tribe, right?
Yeah.
And that's largely why I don't feel like I'll ever be part of a tribe per se, because almost every tribe is gonna at some point require you to compromise on your principle in order to not be ostracized. Pretty much every tribe has some notion that some evil they're committing is the way things should be, or just the way it always has been, and so therefore we got to keep doing it, I guess. And so for that reason, I don't have a whole lot of hopes that I'll ever belong to a tribe.
I can understand that. Like, I don't feel like I want to belong to a tribe either, but also there's a part of me that wants to feel loved and supported and have friends. And
I think it's a natural human instinct to feel like you want to be part of a tribe, to find people of like mind and be surrounded by them. There's a lot of help you can gain from other humans that are of like mind. However, it's not worth it if it's going to require you to, compromise and essentially make yourself a bad person. Simply not worth it. What else? What else is new? Those guys went to space and came back, I guess.
Yep, they did. They flew around the moon and came right back.
Yeah, I heard some of the some of the audio clips from people talking about this or whatever, and then I watched a few minutes of like the command center while the capsule was approaching splashdown.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing just seems nonsensical, theatric.
Why do you say that?
Kind of stupid. I'd have to think probably a little more deeply about it to pinpoint exactly why. There's just something there that, like.
Do you think it's the craziness of spending hundreds of millions of dollars to send people to a far-flung object in space rather than taking care of people here at home?
Certainly, that's an obviously glaring point that should be forefront on most people's minds when they think about this. However, no, it has more to do with the audio and visual aesthetic of the whole thing.
Okay.
It like in the press release, just the verbiage they use and the way they describe like most triumphant moment in human evolution, or they're just always so grandiose about it, all of it, and they blow it way over the top.
I mean, it
feels like they're just distracting you.
I mean, I can understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, it's like, it is pretty amazing to be able to send people 250,000 miles away from Earth and bring them back safely.
Yeah, that's cool and everything. I don't see how it's going to help me in any way. It's really cool. That's a cool hat trick.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. It seems kind of wasteful, if you ask me. But waste is, that's the order of the day for anything the government's going to do. But I guess what's bugging me about it is it feels like I'm being handled in some way. Like they're trying to emotionally or mentally manipulate the way I think or feel about something.
Higher gas prices and inflation. Here, look at this spacecraft going around the moon.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the inflation.
Yeah, that's definitely one aspect of it. They're distracting from more important things, but also they're programming a mindset into people by using certain visual cues and certain speech patterns which dig into the human subconscious and plant something there. Is akin to the use of symbolism. If you study the occult, you will definitely know about the power of symbolism and how that affects the human subconscious.
Yep. It's just interesting that, for me, on a personal note, to me, it's really fascinating that this is happening. Like, we're sending people up to the moon again, and it was really cool to be able to hear the astronauts talk about their experience being on the moon, or not being on the moon, but flying around the moon, seeing the Earth from moon, and being able to name different parts of the moon. It's like we are witnessing an exploration of history, of human experiences, and I think it's really cool, but like you said, they're distracting us from something.
Yep. Yeah, speaking of distractions, that's some of the alternative media members are calling this, Trump called it Operation Epic Fury.
Yep.
Some people are calling it Operation Epstein Fury because it almost seems like he just jumped into a foolish war that anybody could have told him was not going to end well for him. In order to, just because he felt the pressure of this whole Epstein thing, which is, yeah, he's all over that. You can lie to yourself if you're a Trump fan and say that, oh, no, he had nothing to do with Epstein. In fact, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. Come on, man. Those guys were best friends.
Oh, I'm sure they were. They were absolutely best friends. They were like two peas in a pod. But, no one's going to mention that because they don't want their favorite hero to be lumped in among the evils of Epstein.
Yep. Anyways, since Caitlin Johnstone wrote such a wonderful article on that last one, let's run another one from her activist post. The mass media are evil, but they're also really dumb, and other notes.
Oh, this could be good.
The New York Times has printed an article with the headline, "A North American Treaty Organization Without America?" Apparently having spent the entire Ukraine war completely unaware that NATO stands for North Atlantic Treaty Organization. At the same time, CNN ran a segment on an American bomber whose plane was shot down over Iran, in which analyst Amy McGrath suggested that the Iranians might help the pilot because they're happy he's bombing their country, saying the pilot would be worried because they don't know if you're going to be picked up by somebody who's going to turn you over to the Iranian forces that are going to use you and capture you, or is the population happy that you're there? Yeah, I'm sure they're absolutely just overjoyed that you're there dropping bombs on their faces. Holy jeez, guys. Really illustrates how effed Western journalism is, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Jeez. I quit consuming mainstream news a long time ago, and that is a prime example of why. I can't believe people still pay attention to these sources and can keep their lunch down. Holy cow.
Well, it's easy to do when you've had a diet of it for years and years.
I mean, this is some serious baby-brained thinking on display here. That New York Times headline made it through multiple checkpoints before publication without ever occurring to anyone to do at least a quick Google search to find out if the A in NATO really does stand for America. If so, why are there so many European countries in it? Give us a call. Let us know what you think about the mainstream media. 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
Hi, I'm Montel Williams. Most of you know me as a talk show host, but I'm also an author, actor, single father of 4, a fitness writer, avid snowboarder, and I'm also a medical marijuana patient. Like many of the million people who are living with multiple sclerosis, I'm in pain every single day. And sometimes my nerves are so raw that if you brushed up against me in an elevator, I'd scream. I can't sleep at night from the pain, and sometimes the spasms in my legs are so intense they will wake me up throughout the night. I've tried the strongest prescription medications available, and I'm going to tell you, they do not work. In fact, they leave me in a stupor, and most of the time, it's impossible to even live your life. Now, I've tried medical marijuana, and I'm going to tell you something, it works. If you'd like more information about medical marijuana, you can contact the Marijuana Policy Project at mpp.org or call 1-877-JOIN-MPP.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. US President Donald Trump says the US military will remain in the Middle East to ensure that Iran opens the Strait of Hormuz. In a social media post, Mr. Trump detailed America's non-negotiables ahead of talks with Iran. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
Donald Trump is making it clear that he wants what he wants and he's prepared to use the US military to get it. He says that all US ships, aircraft and military personnel with additional ammunition and weaponry will remain in place in and around Iran. That's until both sides reach what he's calling a real agreement. And he flags 2 sticking points, red lines for the US, that Iran must have no nuclear weapons and that the Strait of Hormuz must be open and safe. The US president sticking to those positions and making it clear he will not concede on those points. He said if those don't happen, then the shooting starts. More threats that are showing the cracks in diplomacy ahead of planned talks between the US and Iran in Pakistan. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
European leaders voiced alarm this week over the situation in Lebanon and its impact on the fragile US-Iran truce. The Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's contempt for life and international law was intolerable. Ross Cullen reports.
The French Foreign Ministry said the strikes by the IDF were, quote, all the more unacceptable as they jeopardise the temporary ceasefire between the United States and Iran. The IDF said it was targeting Hezbollah sites in Lebanon, but Israeli forces reportedly detained a Spanish UN peacekeeper and fired warning shots at an Italian convoy. Madrid and Rome demanded answers from the Israeli government, with the Italian foreign minister warning of a second Gaza. EU officials also warned that high prices and potential shortages of jet fuel could last into the summer.
Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that member countries are doing everything US President Donald Trump had requested to strengthen the military alliance, even if some were initially a bit slow to provide support to America and its war with Iran. Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
The two men met at the White House on Wednesday amid tensions within the alliance over the Iran war. The US president has threatened to withdraw from the transatlantic security alliance in recent weeks. He argues that European allies haven't provided enough support for the US war in Iran while relying on US security guarantees. The NATO chief acknowledged that some allies were a bit slow to support the US. He noted they were also a bit surprised, given President Trump opted not to inform them before starting the war. But he argued that today allies are providing a massive amount of support, saying they've heard and are responding to President Trump's requests.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Talk radio you control. Give us a call, 603-283-6160. Let us know what's on your mind tonight. In the studio, it's Stu.
And Riley O'Bill.
We were reading an article from Caitlin Johnstone, found an activist post about the mass media are evil, but they're also really dumb, and other notes. She was talking about this New York Times headline that read, a North American treaty organization without America, except that NATO stands for North
Atlantic. Yep.
So she's making fun of that. Let's see. It says that New York Times headline made it through multiple checkpoints before publication without it ever even occurring to anyone to at least do a quick Google search to find out if the A in NATO really does stand for America, and if so, why are there so many European countries in it? That CNN analyst really does have such an infantile children's cartoon worldview on American wars that she thinks the people being bombed by American pilots will want to hug them and kiss them and give them presents when they emergency eject into enemy territory. It's kind of amazing that any of the people involved in either of these incidents are working in news media at all. Yeah, it's not that amazing to me. You're just a regurgitator of words if you work in anywhere in the mainstream news media. If you've ever wondered why so many Americans are so ignorant about what's going on in their world, it's because for generations, these have been the kinds of people informing them about world events. These are the news outlets who've been responsible for creating an informed populace, and their reporting is shared with the entire Western world. There was this, fancy gala dinner or something, a meeting of a whole bunch of rich people, in which Hillary Clinton was giving an award to, I think it was Tom Brokaw, I don't know. It was one of these guys that's been like, a famous news guy for years and whatever. It's basically like thank you so much for helping us fool the American people into believing a bunch of stuff that's absolutely false. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but that's what it was. She said, like, thanks for helping us control the narrative for so many years or something like that. It's offensive. You should be very upset about what the mainstream news is doing to you. I constantly criticize the Western press for its role in propagandizing the public to manufacture consent for evil wars and normalize an abusive political status quo. You cannot despise these manipulators enough for their role in the world's dysfunction today. But these two incidents highlight the fact that the people running the Western press aren't just evil, they're also really, really stupid. Shows a post on X here. Says CNN claims that the fighter pilot that was shot down over Iran may be helped by the Iranian people because they are happy that he's there. Utterly deranged propaganda.
Indeed. Like, why would they be happy that he's there? He's the enemy.
No, that's the thing, though. So the American media is trying to sell you on the fact that Iran wants to be liberated with bombs from American bomber jets, which is nonsense.
Well, Trump's trying to sell this too because he's saying, the Iranian people want us over there to help them be liberated, but I don't know, do we actually know that to be true, or is that just propaganda?
Exactly. And another talking point they'll run is, look, they killed tens of thousands of their own citizens for protesting. And they leave out the fact that protest was actually a failed attempt at a coup set up by Western powers. And who knows if their number of those killed by the government there was anywhere near accurate. Could have been 200 and they called it 20,000. Not that I'm excusing a government killing any amount of its own citizenry or anyone else's for that matter. That's not excusable.
Yeah.
The point there is that you're being lied to. The New York Times is also running narrative cover for Israel's ethnic cleansing operation in Lebanon. I don't think most people are even aware that Israel is bombing the heck out of Lebanon. Running a story on the ethnically motivated mass expulsion with the obscene headline, Israel's message to southern Lebanon, Shiites must go. The Times then goes on to make it clear that what they're softly framing as Israel's message is in fact a brazen ethnic cleansing operation, saying Israel's evacuation orders in Lebanon apply exclusively to Shiite Muslims, while Christians and Druze may be permitted to remain as long as they don't shelter in any Shiites, as long as they don't shelter any Shiites among them.
Interesting. Yep, there's ethnic cleansing right there.
Yeah, but that's war crimes.
It is. But it's okay because Israel is preparing the Holy Land for Jesus.
Mm-hmm. So this must be an excerpt from the article they're talking about here. It says, as fighting reignited, Israel issued blanket evacuation guidance for a vast stretch of southern Lebanon extending 25 miles from the Israeli border, publicly urging all civilians to flee to the north. But behind the scenes, Israeli officials have conveyed a more targeted message. In private calls to local leaders across southern Lebanon, Israel military officials have assured several Christian and Druze communities that they could remain in the evacuation zone. They have pressed them, however, to force out any Lebanese from neighboring Shia Muslim communities who have sought refuge among them as Israeli bombardment flattened Shiite towns, according to local Christian, Druze, and Shiite leaders who spoke to the New York Times. The Shiites make up the majority of southern Lebanon. The fact that Israel is explicitly warning people of one ethnicity not to hide members of another ethnicity from the invading force which wants to eliminate them should be drawing Holocaust comparisons around the world. Instead, it's going completely ignored while the West pretends Jews are the ones in imminent danger. Shows another post on X here from... Anyway, it said, the stunning explosion of anti-Semitism after October 7th has shaken American Jews to their core. Get tickets to see October 8th in theaters and March 14th. In their melodramatic victim LARPing after October 7th, Western Zionist Jews like Gad Saad and Daniela Greenbaum Davis promoted a social media campaign asking non-Jews, would you hide me? As in, would you hide me if there's another Holocaust? Billionaire Sheryl Sandberg appeared in a propaganda film titled October 8th, The Fight for the Soul of America, in which she described asking her friend, will you hide me? After the 2023 Hamas attack, as though the Western billionaire class isn't the most coddled and least persecuted group on the entire planet. Those same people don't care about the Lebanese Muslims hiding from Israeli Nazis. Whenever someone talks about anti-Semitism these days, you need to ask them to clarify what kind of anti-Semitism they mean. The I hate Jews kind, or the I don't want my son to die invading some place called Karg Island kind. Israel apologists are shrieking their lungs out about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying she'll vote against U.S. funding for Israel's Iron Dome. The premise of these arguments is that Israel is an innocent little flower who's just sitting there minding its own business while evil savages fire rockets, missiles, and drones at it for no reason, so it requires a defensive weapons system to shoot down those projectiles. It is taken as a given that Americans need to pay for that system for some strange reason.
It's very strange. I mean, here we have another country. Like, why are we paying for their defense? Why are we not paying for our own? It's absurd to think that Israel should get a pass. Well, the nation of Israel should not get a pass while the American people are struggling to pay their bills. I'm not saying the government should go bail these people out. I'm saying that Israel needs to take care of its own. If it's really the victim and it's really struggling, that's on him. That's on Israel.
Yeah, usually when you're the victim of mass persecution, it's because you're being a jerk. That was the case with the Mormons, consecrating their neighbor's property to the Lord and all of that.
Without their consent.
Yeah, that's kind of what got them the persecution, which they used as a narrative to be like, oh, look, poor us.
Yeah.
So the persecution narrative is a powerful thing.
It definitely helps people. It definitely helps create or garner sympathy for your plight if you portray yourself as a victim. For some people, sure, you're going to see them and be like, oh, I need to go help the victim. But in reality, not everyone portraying themselves as a victim is a victim.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times the real victim will not even... They'll just quietly be minding their own business.
Yeah. Instead
of screaming about how they're a victim. This article shows a post on X from Scott Jennings, says spiritual leader of U.S. Democratic Party hopes as many Israelis as possible die in rocket and missile attacks fired by radical Islamic terrorists. This, of course, is a lie. Israel is not sitting there passively receiving these attacks. It is abusing Palestinians and starting wars throughout the Middle East under the assumption that it is relatively safe from return fire. The Iron Dome exists to protect Israel from the deterrence capabilities of the populations it attacks, and from the domestic political consequences of military aggression becoming unpopular among an electorate who must suffer its effects. Calling the Iron Dome defensive is like looking at the armor and shield of a medieval knight and saying he must have carried those items around all the time in case someone tries to stab him while he was sitting at home playing with his children. No, those were weapons of war designed to keep the knight alive so he could kill as many enemy soldiers as possible on the battlefield without being stopped. If you were a psychopath and suddenly discovered you had superpowers which make your flesh as hard as steel, you'd probably go around beating people up because you'd be immune from the retaliations of those you attacked. Without those powers, you'd have to be a lot more diplomatic in your interactions with people because you'd want to keep your teeth in your head. Israel is like a psychopath who's been given powers which protect it from retaliatory strikes. This is an entirely moderate position from AOC and should have been her stance the entire time. Those criticizing her statements are acting like it's a second Holocaust because they want Israel to be allowed to butcher people throughout West Asia without any fear of consequence. Yeah, that's some very direct language from Caitlin Johnstone. Can't necessarily disagree with any of
It really is direct for language, and I think a lot of people are seeing reactions toward the nation state of Israel, especially on the conservative side, and they think that everyone hates all the Jews. No, we're just pointing out the hypocrisy of supporting a nation state that pretends to be a victim and murders people around the world just like the United States does.
That's right. I don't have any problem with Jews. There are plenty of Jews that don't live in Israel, and even some of the ones that do live in Israel, I'm fine with them.
Yeah.
The Israeli government is a major problem and needs to stop doing what they're doing.
I agree with you there, and I'm sure there'll be some Israelis living in Israel that say the same thing.
Yeah, but apparently that's anti-Semitic.
Yeah, apparently so.
Or something, even though that's a strange term anyways, because that has to do with the language you speak, and so some Jews are not Semitic at all, and they're not, and the Jews that are Semitic are not the only Semites. It gets confusing, but that's all, to help them with their persecution narrative, because if you don't think about it too much, you're just going to believe them. But right now we're going to go to the phones. Yeah, David in New Mexico. David, what's on your mind?
What's a Jew?
Someone who comes
question.
from the tribe of Judah.
Yeah, good answer.
Well, wait a minute. How do you get from the tribe of Judah to a Jew?
Well, from what I was told, and again, this could be what I was told and what I remember, so we'll see how good my memory is and whether I'm right or wrong or whatever. So, Judah was one of the 12 tribes of Israel, and Jews come from are supposed to be descendants of Judah. That's how I get from Judah to Jews. What do you think, David?
Jews are supposed to be descendants of the tribe of Judah. Okay, so there are different Jews. Some of them are in Israel. Let's just go generally. So generally, when we Americans think of a Jew, we think of somebody that was in Europe and then got kind of pushed out of Europe. Is that who we're talking about?
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, and so the Jews and the people that call themselves Jews in Europe, what's their ancestry? What's their lineage? What's their story, man?
Must come from one of the 12 tribes, right?
Must be, yeah.
First of all, wait a minute. First of all, it's key on the word must have. So you're speculating because you don't know, right?
I don't know. They claim to know. The Mormons claim to know that they're also Jews.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Riley. Yeah. So tell us, Riley. I mean, wait a minute. I mean, O'Reilly or AutoZone. Who are you? I forget.
O'Reilly's Auto Parts. That's who I am.
So what's the story? So how do we track the lineage? What is the lineage from? I mean, if we got Jews in New York City, and they came from Europe in whatever the teens, 20s, 30s, whatever, whenever they came over here, 19 teens.
I don't have a good answer to this, David, unfortunately, but I can try and...
Shut up, Astro, you're a moron. Not you, Riley, the Astro's a moron. Rastro. So anyway, before Rastro so rudely interrupted us, what were you saying, Riley?
I was just saying that I don't have a good answer. I could probably make up one that might sound interesting.
Let's trace facts. I mean, they're in New York City and elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
Jews. Okay. And they came from Europe, right? I mean,
yep.
So did I. So did my family. Okay. And when they were in Europe, so they were in Europe, they're like in Germany. So like they're like Germans, and they were in France, so they're like French, and they were in.
Some of them came from Russia, which is Asia, I guess.
So it's Russia. So they were Rus or Russian, but they're still Jews. So they're saying that are they saying that they're Jews by religion or that they're Jews by blood? What are they saying?
Depends on which one you ask and which one is most convenient for them to claim at the time.
Okay, so what are the several different answers that we might get? Maybe Rastro can tell us.
I don't know.
Okay, so they're gonna say that that they're both, that we're Jews because we follow Jewish religion and we're related to each other. And okay, so you're in Germany and you've been there for a couple hundred years, or more. And were you always in Germany? Meaning like you were never in Jerusalem? Is that the claim?
Whose claim?
Well, the Jews that are claiming this.
I don't really know what they claim. I think it kind of shifts around.
Might be it kind of probably does kind of shift around, but it might be a good idea to ask them, right? I mean, because if they're in Germany and they've been there for hundreds of years, then they may be Jews, but they're Germans. And now if they're Jews, I guess we're speculating that means they have some ties to the Holy Land. So how did they get from the Holy Land to Germany?
Oh, I don't know. God must have cast them out of the Holy Land, as he does from time to time.
So they were scattered. The tribes were scattered, right? They got scattered all the way to Germany?
Yep, that's the story.
That's what I would speculate.
Okay, well, wait a minute. So let's see. Seems to me there was something about like somewhere around, we'll say the year 0 in relation to Christ, plus or minus a couple hundred years. Or no, I guess it might even be way earlier than that. When did the tribes get scattered? What decade or what century are we talking about? Or centuries?
Well, there was the Babylonian destruction of Israel in like 500, 600 BC, somewhere around there. So maybe that's when they started getting scattered. I don't know.
That sounds good to me. That's a good guess. I mean, since we got like 3 minutes left. Okay, we'll go with that one. Okay, so they got scattered around that time, and they ended up in Germany. So they didn't like get on like Pan Am or TWA or anything else to fly up there, let alone El Al or whatever the Israeli airline is. They got there, some other way. How did they get from when they were scattered, 500 BC? How did they get up into Germany?
I imagine by migration, like everyone else did.
Well, what do you mean, like everybody else?
Everyone else is migrating to and fro. Populations move.
So they and what kind of a route did they like travel to get to Germany?
These are questions I don't have an answer to.
Okay, all right. So now they're out of they've been scattered. They're out of Israel. But God said it's theirs, and 2,000 years pass, and then in 1948, thereabouts, they go take it back by force because they have a right to, right? I mean, because 2,500 years before, God wrongly kicked them out of there, or scattered them, or somebody scattered them, and it was wrong.
No, I think you're confused right here. This was
I'm confused all the time, dude. Not just right here, but go ahead.
This is a home for a people without a home. What do they say? A home for a people without a home?
Yeah.
Something?
Oh, you mean like the American Indians?
They claim there was no one there. They just moved there. There was nobody in Palestine at that time.
Oh, so the Palestinians that were friendly to them, at least in the beginning when they showed up, they weren't there. That's a lie. They weren't actually there.
That sounds like the current claim.
Yeah. So there was like from my readings, maybe I'm reading BS. Maybe it's all lies. But so 175,000. We'll call them Palestinians, whatever they called themselves. I have no idea. But they were like there, from what I know, and they were there when the Jews showed up, or the new Israelis, and they were friendly to them until, neighbors. I guess they didn't have good fences, and so they became bad neighbors. And then they started. The Palestinians, we'll call them, started to not like them as they got more and more of their land taken away from them, and they were confined to smaller and smaller spaces.
Yeah, that situation comports closer to reality with the studying I've done on the situation than the other.
Right. But to make it an easy question, since we're at the end of your program, so what was it right and just, and that 2,500 years after getting scattered, that they had the right to go back and take that land by force?
Probably everything up to where you said take the land by force. Probably perfectly fine if they go. Probably perfectly fine if they go back in a peaceful manner. But setting up a settlement, which includes your neighbor's property and trees they've been growing for many generations, and just deciding that now is yours, that's not within your rights.
Yeah, well, you also what about those ME-109s that some ex-Nazis were able to find and sell to them, so that to aid them in their taking of Israel, the land of Israel, in 1948. How about using fighter planes against whoever might try to?
I hadn't heard that claim.
I haven't either.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. Definitely a big part of Germany, and their thing with the Jews was they're fine as long as they don't live here. So they were very interested in setting them up with a Zion to go to. Madagascar was even considered as the point. Anyway, this has been Free Talk Live. Cheers.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take